Wait a minute, I already told you, I didn't cheat on my husband, I said, but my mother-in-law and husband didn't believe me. They acted like it was already proven. I kept denying it, but my mother-in-law wouldn't stop. My son is sterile. There's no way you could be pregnant with his child. If you get a medical test, it'll prove you cheated, but honestly, we don't even need that, it's obvious. I tried to argue back, but my own mother slapped me. I looked at my parents, but they just stared at me coldly. My name is Anna, I'm 34 and work in an office. I got married to my husband, William, last year after dating him for a long time. We both work and share house chores, so our life feels balanced. William can cook, clean, and do laundry. I've always appreciated that about him. We were living happily as newlyweds, and I thought this happiness would last forever. From the start of our marriage, I wanted to have kids. In my 20s, I was focused on my career, but as I watched my friends raising happy families, I started longing for a child of my own. However, maybe because of my age, I hadn't been able to get pregnant yet. It was disheartening, but I kept hoping. Then one morning, I woke up feeling sick. Could this be it? I grabbed a pregnancy test, and when I saw the positive result, I couldn't believe my eyes. Was I really pregnant? I called into work late and rushed to the hospital to be sure. The doctor confirmed it. Yes, you're pregnant. I can hear the baby's heartbeat. Congratulations, you're about 3 months along. Hearing this, I couldn't hold back my tears of happiness. I couldn't wait to tell William. On my way home, I stopped at the supermarket to get food and planned a special dinner. I imagined how excited William would be. Would he cry happy tears? Would we hug and celebrate together? I cooked dinner that evening with a big smile on my face. When William got home, he looked at the table. Wow, dinner looks amazing tonight, he said as he loosened his tie. Still smiling, I told him, I have big news, I'm pregnant. He froze, looking shocked, but instead of joy, his reaction crushed me. Whose baby is it? He asked. What? I stared at him, confused. I'm asking, whose child is it? His voice was cold, and his eyes were distant. What are you talking about? Of course, it's yours, I replied, stunned. He sighed deeply. I'm sterile, Anna. What? My heart sank. So it's not mine. I didn't think you'd cheat on me. I'm so disappointed. Wait, I didn't cheat on you. This baby is yours. I tried to explain, but he didn't believe me. I need time to think. I'm going back to my parents' house, he said. Then he left without even touching the dinner I made. A few days later, William called my parents and said he wanted a meeting with them. I begged him to talk to me first, but he refused. In the end, we agreed to meet at my parents' house that Saturday. I was so anxious that I couldn't sleep that night. I didn't know how to explain everything to my parents. When my in-laws arrived, my mom asked, "What's going on? What do you mean? Haven't you heard from your daughter?" I heard Anna's pregnant, but it's not my son's child. My parents froze. I never thought Anna would cheat on him. I thought they had a good marriage, my mother-in-law said. Wait, I told you before, I didn't cheat on him, I protested, but my mother-in-law and husband were already convinced I was guilty. I denied it again, but she didn't stop. My son is sterile, so it's impossible for her to be pregnant with his baby. If we get a medical certificate, it'll prove the affair. But we don't even need that, it's obvious, she added. I tried to argue, but then my mother slapped me. I looked at my parents, but they were both looking at me coldly. My husband and mother-in-law gave me mocking looks. You deserve to be slapped. You cheated and never apologized for it, my mother-in-law said. When she said that, my mom bowed her head. I'm sorry, I apologize. My mother urged me to apologize too, and my dad also apologized to my mother-in-law and husband, saying my daughter caused a lot of trouble. He grabbed my head and pushed me down to apologize. I pushed my dad's hand away and asked them to listen to me, but they wouldn't. They were so angry. You've caused so much trouble and shame for our family. You're no daughter of mine, my father yelled in front of my in-laws. Oh my God, they've disowned you. I guess you got what you deserved, my mother-in-law laughed. Just then, the door to the living room opened, and my sister walked in. Dad, Mom, please calm down, she said. Finally, she was here. My father, still furious, turned on her too. How can you stay so calm after all this? This isn't your problem. We're family, of course, it's my business. My sister turned to my mother-in-law and husband. Is it true that you're sterile? My mother-in-law and husband looked at my sister with confused expressions. "Do you think your sister-in-law is accusing us, William?" my mother-in-law asked. "No, not at all, but it might help if we had some facts to back it up," my sister replied calmly. "When did you have the test?" she asked. My husband and mother-in-law exchanged looks. "He didn't take any tests," my mother-in-law finally admitted. "What?" I was shocked, and my sister was surprised too. "Then how can you say he's sterile?" my sister asked. "Are you trying to scare us?" "He hasn't had a test, but it's true," my mother-in-law said defensively. My sister stayed calm and asked, "How can you be so sure?" My mother-in-law sighed, clearly annoyed, and started explaining. "My son was married before. He couldn't have children after 7 years of marriage, but his ex-wife got pregnant right after the divorce, so it must be my son's problem." She ended her story with certainty. "That's not proof that my husband is sterile," I said, but I didn't know how to argue since I didn't know enough about it. I looked at my sister for help, and she nodded, then spoke again. "I understand why you think that, but you can't say for sure he's sterile just because of that. There are people who have kids after 10 years of marriage without fertility treatment." My mother-in-law interrupted. "Don't try to lecture me with what you found on the internet. You're not a doctor, so what you say doesn't matter." I thought, she's not even listening properly. "I am a doctor, I'm an obstetrician," my sister said flatly. "What?" My husband and mother-in-law were shocked. It seemed like they hadn't really paid attention to my sister before. "I explained this before you all got married. You're just guessing. If you really want to blame my sister, let's get a proper test. I can do it for you at a reasonable price since I'm family." At that, both my husband and mother-in-law looked uncomfortable, but they seemed stuck. "If you insist, let's do the test," my husband said, reluctantly agreeing. The test was done, and I decided to stay at my sister's house while we waited for the results. I didn't want to see my husband or go back to my parents' house. My sister tried to cheer me up, which helped me stay calm. A few weeks later, the results came in. We all met at my parents' house to hear the news. It turned out there was nothing wrong with my husband. My mother-in-law's face went pale, and my husband was surprised. "Anna, I'm sorry, but I'm glad there's nothing wrong with me. Now we know the baby is mine," he said, sounding relieved. I was speechless. Who was it that agreed with my mother-in-law and accused me based on just assumptions? My mother-in-law laughed and said, "If we'd done this test earlier, we wouldn't have had all this trouble." She didn't even apologize to me. "I guess that settles everything for now," my husband said, looking proud. I thought to myself, I can't be with someone like this anymore. When my husband said, "Let's go home together," I refused. Noticing how I felt, my sister stepped in. "I don't think she's ready to go back yet. I'll stay with her." My husband reluctantly agreed, and he and my mother-in-law finally left my parents' house. "What a pair they are, they almost convinced us too," my father muttered. "I'm sorry I slapped you the other day, but this whole mess is their fault," my mother said, apologizing. My parents were angry at my husband and mother-in-law, but from my point of view, they were also to blame. My sister took me straight to her apartment. As soon as we arrived, I felt such relief that I couldn't stop crying. My sister didn't say anything, she just hugged me and comforted me. No one believed me. Everyone looked at me with cold, suspicious eyes, and it terrified me. In the middle of all that, my sister was the only one who stood by me. I was so glad I had talked to her before the meeting at my parents' house. She came all the way to support me, and I couldn't thank her enough. I stayed with my sister for a few days, resting both physically and emotionally. Then, I made a decision. My sister came with me to my husband's house. When my husband saw us, he greeted me, "Welcome home, I've been waiting for you." He was surprised to see my sister and another person with me. My sister-in-law. "And who is the other person?" he asked. "This is a lawyer. I asked him to come today." "A lawyer?" My husband was clearly upset. "Why a lawyer?" "I can't live with you anymore. I want a divorce." When I said the word divorce, my husband went pale. Wait a minute, this is so sudden," he said. "It's not sudden, not after everything that's happened," I replied firmly. "No, I'm sorry about everything, but you can't just divorce me over that," he argued. The lawyer calmly explained to him, "From what I can see, blindly blaming Anna is grounds for divorce. Also, knowing Anna wanted children, yet hiding your infertility, is a serious issue. I could tell my husband hadn't expected this. He nodded, looking stunned. With him standing quietly to the side, I packed my things and went back to my sister's house. After that, I only communicated with my husband through the lawyer. I asked for compensation for the emotional pain he caused me, a fair division of property, and child support. Thanks to my lawyer, I got everything I asked for. Also, my mother-in-law and husband spread rumors in the neighborhood and at his work, claiming I had an affair. I sued them for defamation. In addition to getting more money, both my husband and mother-in-law were forced to publicly apologize and correct the lies they told. As a result, they lost all credibility and became socially isolated. I decided to rent an apartment just down the street from my sister's house. My parents offered for me to move back home and help raise my child, but I politely declined. I couldn't let my parents, who didn't protect me when I needed them most, raise my child. My sister also had bad experiences with our parents, who cared more about their reputation than anything else. Because of that, she distanced herself from them as well. I'm grateful to my parents for sending me to school, but I can't ignore how disappointed I am in them. From now on, I'll keep my relationship with them minimal. What matters most to me is having a sister who truly cares for me and stands by me. Of course, I'll do my best to help her when she needs it too. Above all, I need to be strong, for the sake of my unborn child. Blaming me based on assumptions, without even checking the facts, what a terrible husband and mother-in-law. And my parents, who believed them and blamed me without listening to my side, they're just as guilty. I'm so thankful Anna has such a wonderful sister. Raising a child as a single mother won't be easy, but I know she'll be okay. Cherish your sisterly bond and live each day happily.
I never thought a simple envelope could shatter my world, but that's exactly what happened on a random Tuesday morning. The letter wasn't even addressed to me. It was for my husband Ryan, marked urgent, financial notice in bold red letters. I probably wouldn't have opened it if I hadn't recognized the return address, Adams Family Holdings LLC. Same last name as my mother-in-law, but definitely not her company. My name is Claire, and until that morning, I thought I knew everything about my family's finances. Ryan and I had always been open with each other about money, or so I believed. We'd built our life together carefully over the past 8 years, both working hard to afford our modest house in the suburbs and provide for our 3-year-old daughter, Emma. The kitchen was quiet except for Emma's cartoons playing in the background as I stared at the envelope. Ryan had already left for work, and my mother-in-law Marjorie wasn't due for her surprise visit for at least another hour. My hands trembled slightly as I ran my finger under the seal. Inside was a single page with a company letterhead I'd never seen before. Final notice, capital call for Adams Family Holdings, LLC. Outstanding balance, $47,000. My coffee went cold on the counter as I read the letter 3 times, trying to make sense of it. $47,000? That was more than our annual mortgage payment. How could Ryan be involved in something this big without telling me? Mommy, look. Emma's voice startled me. She proudly held up a crayon drawing of what looked like a purple elephant wearing a hat. That's beautiful, sweetie, I managed, quickly folding the letter and stuffing it in my pocket. Why don't you draw another one for Grandma? She's coming over later. Emma's face lit up. Can we make cookies with Grandma? Maybe. I forced a smile, though the mention of Marjorie made my stomach twist. She'd been spending more and more time at our house lately, always with some excuse about helping with Emma or teaching me proper housekeeping. As if I couldn't manage my own home. I pulled out my phone and opened our joint banking app. Everything looked normal, the same balance we'd had for months. If Ryan was involved in some business venture, he must have a separate account I didn't know about. The doorbell rang, making me jump. Marjorie was early. Of course she was. Claire, darling. She swept in without waiting for an invitation, perfectly coiffed as always in her designer clothes. I brought some of those organic snacks Emma loves. The ones you never seem to remember to buy. Thanks, Marjorie. I touched the letter in my pocket, wondering if she knew anything about this mysterious company that shared her last name. Actually, I wanted to ask you. Grammy. Emma came running, and Marjorie scooped her up with a triumphant smile. There's my precious girl. Has Mommy been letting you watch those awful cartoons again? You know, Claire, I've sent you several articles about the benefits of educational programming. I bit back a response, my mind still racing about the letter. Should I confront Ryan tonight? Call the company directly? The amount was so specific, $47,000. Not a round number, which meant it had to be real. Claire? Are you even listening? Marjorie's sharp tone cut through my thoughts. I was saying Ryan mentioned you've been distracted lately. Perhaps you're working too much? A mother's place. I need to make a phone call, I interrupted, heading for my home office. Emma, show Grandma your new drawing. As I closed the door behind me, I could hear Marjorie's voice. Your mother seems very stressed today. Good thing Grammy's here to help. I pulled out the letter again, this time noticing something I'd missed before, a handwritten note at the bottom. Final warning before foreclosure proceedings. Contact Marcus Adams immediately. Marcus Adams. Another Adams I'd never heard of, yet somehow connected to my husband and possibly his mother. I grabbed my laptop, determined to find out who he was and what Ryan had gotten himself into. One thing was certain, our perfect little family life was about to change, and I had a feeling Marjorie knew more than she was letting on. The dinner party was my idea, a desperate attempt to appear normal while my world was quietly imploding. 3 days had passed since finding that letter, and Ryan still hadn't mentioned anything about Adams' family holdings or the mysterious Marcus Adams. Every time I tried to bring up our finances, he'd change the subject or get a conveniently timed call from work. You've overcooked the salmon, Marjorie announced, prodding her fish with a fork. We were seated around our dining room table with Ryan's college friend Tham and his wife Beth, who shot me a sympathetic look. I think it's delicious, Beth offered, but Marjorie wasn't finished. Claire, darling, I've told you before, wild-caught salmon needs exactly 4 minutes per side. And these vegetables. She sighed dramatically. They're from the frozen section, aren't they? I gripped my wine glass tighter, watching Ryan's face for any sign of support. He was suddenly very interested in his water glass. Actually, I said, forcing a smile, I got them fresh from the farmer's market yesterday. The same place you recommended, Marjorie. Well, perhaps you should have let me show you how to properly prepare them. Ryan grew up with home-cooked meals every night. Remember those beautiful dinners, sweetheart? Ryan nodded, still not meeting my eyes. Mom's cooking was always amazing. The conversation drifted to safer topics. Tom's new job, Beth's garden, the weather. I barely listened, instead watching Ryan check his phone under the table every few minutes. Who was he texting? Marcus Adams? His mother? Both? Claire? Beth's voice snapped me back to reality. I was just asking about Emma. How's she doing with preschool? Before I could answer, Marjorie jumped in. Oh, she's struggling, poor thing. I told Claire and Ryan they should have waited another year. 3 is simply too young, but Claire insists on working full-time. Emma's actually thriving. I cut in, my voice sharper than intended. Her teachers say she's one of the most social children in her class. Social doesn't equal prepared, dear. Ryan, tell them about that tantrum she had last week when I picked her up. Ryan cleared his throat. Mom, maybe we should. It wasn't a tantrum, I interrupted. She was upset because you showed up instead of me, without warning. Again. The table fell silent. Beth studied her plate while Tom suddenly became fascinated with his napkin. I'm only trying to help, Marjorie said, her voice dripping with practiced martyrdom. Someone needs to be there for Emma while her mother is off playing career woman. Excuse me. I stood up abruptly, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. I need to check on dessert. In the kitchen, I braced myself against the counter, trying to steady my breathing. Through the serving window, I could hear Marjorie's voice. Ryan, sweetheart, have you thought more about that investment opportunity we discussed? The timing really is crucial. Investment opportunity? My head snapped up. Was she talking about Adam's family holdings? Not now, Mom, Ryan muttered, but Marjorie pressed on. I just worry about your future. All of your futures. With Claire's. Spending habits. I grabbed my phone and ducked into the pantry, quickly typing Marcus Adams' business into the search bar. The results made my stomach drop. Marcus Adams was Marjorie's brother, Ryan's uncle, and his company had just filed for bankruptcy protection. The pieces started falling into place. The secret investment, Ryan's distance, Marjorie's increased presence in our lives. They'd invested our money, our family's future, in a failing business, and they'd done it behind my back. Claire? Ryan's voice called from the dining room. Do you need help with dessert? I stepped out of the pantry to find him standing in the kitchen doorway, looking uncertain. "No," I said quietly, "but I think we need to talk about Uncle Marcus." The color drained from his face. Behind him, I could see Marjorie watching us through the serving window, her expression unreadable. "After our guests leave," Ryan whispered, glancing nervously toward his mother. "Of course," I replied, picking up the apple pie I'd stress-baked earlier. "We wouldn't want to ruin Marjorie's dinner party with talk about 47,000 missing dollars, would we?" I walked past him back to the dining room, where Beth and Tom sat in uncomfortable silence while Marjorie held court. Game on, I thought. Let's see how long they can keep their secrets. After our guests left, I sat at my laptop in the dark kitchen, staring at years of deception laid bare before me. Ryan's email was still open. He'd forgotten to log out of our shared computer again. The messages between him and his mother went back months, discussing Uncle Marcus's business ventures, investment opportunities, and most importantly, me. "Claire doesn't understand business," Marjorie had written. "She's too emotional about money. Trust me, darling, mothers know best." Ryan's response made my hands shake. "I know, Mom. I'll handle Claire. She doesn't need to know everything." The front door opened and closed softly. Ryan's footsteps approached after walking his mother to her car. I didn't look up from the screen. "They're all here," I said quietly. "Every email, every secret meeting, every dollar you gave to your uncle's failing company." Ryan froze in the doorway. "You're in my email? That's what you're worried about? Not the fact that you and your mother have been lying to me for months." "It's not lying," he said, running a hand through his hair. "I was protecting our future. Uncle Marcus's company is bankrupt," I finished. I looked it up. "You gave him our savings, Ryan. Money we were saving for Emma's education." He sat down heavily across from me. "Mom said." "Of course she did." I turned the laptop toward him. "Read this email. The one where your mother calls me a gold digger who trapped you with a baby. She was just upset that day. You know how she gets." "Do I?" I stood up, pacing the kitchen. Because the Marjorie I thought I knew was just a controlling mother-in-law. Not someone who'd convince her son to steal from his own family. "Steal?" Ryan's voice rose. "It's my money too." "Is it?" I pulled up another email. "Because according to this, you've been funneling your entire bonus checks to Marcus for 2 years. Money we were supposed to split. Money for our family." The silence stretched between us, broken only by the hum of the refrigerator. "Uncle Marcus just needed time," Ryan finally said. "The business would have turned around if..." "If what? If you'd given him more? Our retirement fund, maybe? The house?" "You're being hysterical." The word hit me like a slap. Hysterical. Marjorie's favorite accusation whenever I disagreed with her. "I called the bank today," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "Did you know I could see all the transfers because my name's on the accounts? $47,000, Ryan. That's just the beginning, isn't it?" He wouldn't meet my eyes. "There were some other investments." "How much?" "Claire." "How much?" He mumbled something. "What?" $212,000, he said quietly. "Total." The room spun. I gripped the counter to stay upright. "Does your mother know?" "She helped arrange it. She says Uncle Marcus just needs one more quarter too." "Stop." I held up my hand. "Just stop." My phone buzzed, a text from Sarah. "You okay? Call me if you need me." I'd forgotten she was on standby, waiting to hear how the confrontation went. We'd planned it all out this afternoon over coffee, after I'd discovered the emails. "I'm staying at Sarah's tonight," I said, closing the laptop. "I'm taking Emma. You can't just..." "Watch me." I headed for the stairs. "And Ryan? Check your email tomorrow. You'll find some interesting forwards to our lawyer." "Our lawyer?" His voice cracked. "Claire, please. We can work this out. Mom says." "Your mother," I cut him off, "is the reason I'm leaving. You chose her over us over and over. Now you can have what you wanted. Just you and Mommy, planning how to spend money you don't have." As I packed a bag for Emma and myself, I could hear Ryan on the phone downstairs, his voice urgent and pleading. I knew who he was calling. Marjorie would arrive within minutes, ready to manage this crisis like she managed everything else. But this time would be different. This time I had evidence. And tomorrow, Everyone would know exactly what kind of people the Addams family really were. Sarah's guest room became my war room. Empty coffee cups littered the desk where I'd spent the last 3 days, combing through bank statements and emails, building my case. Emma was adapting better than I'd expected, treating it like an extended sleepover with her aunt, Sarah. "You need to see this," Sarah said, handing me her phone. On the screen was Marjorie's latest social media post, a photo of her and Ryan at some charity gala. Captions supporting local businesses with my wonderful son. "Family always comes first." I laughed bitterly. Family first? She helped him empty our accounts. Speaking of accounts, Sarah hesitated. "Did you check his credit cards?" I froze. In all my digging, I'd focused on the bank accounts and investment records. The credit cards hadn't even occurred to me. My hands shook as I logged into our credit card portal. "Oh God." "What?" Sarah leaned over my shoulder. "There's a new card. Opened 6 months ago." I scrolled through the statements. Regular charges at the Grand Plaza Hotel downtown. Dinner for 2 at expensive restaurants. Jewelry purchases. Sarah squeezed my shoulder. "Claire, he's seeing someone." The words felt like glass in my throat. All this time I thought it was just about his mother and the money, but a knock at the door made us both jump. Sarah went to answer it while I quickly wiped my eyes. "Claire?" Ryan's voice carried down the hallway. "I know you're here. Please, we need to talk." I stepped into the hallway, keeping my distance. He looked terrible, unshaven, shirt wrinkled, dark circles under his eyes. "Good. Who is she?" I asked quietly. "What?" "The woman you've been meeting at the Grand Plaza. The one you buy jewelry for." His face went pale. "That's not." "I can explain. Is she one of Uncle Marcus's employees? Someone your mother introduced you to?" "No. Those charges. They're for Mom." I stared at him. "What?" "The hotel has the spa package she likes. And the jewelry. It's her birthday next month." I was trying to make up for some bad investments. With more secret spending? I shook my head. "You're still lying, Ryan. Even now." "I'm not. Look, I know I messed up with Uncle Marcus's business, but Mom really thought." "Stop." I held up my hand. "Just stop talking about your mother. For once in your life, can you think for yourself?" Emma's voice drifted from Sarah's kitchen, singing along to some cartoon. Ryan's eyes darted toward the sound. "Let me see her," he pleaded. "She needs her father. She needs stability and honesty. 2 things you clearly can't provide. I'll tell you everything. About Uncle Marcus, the business, all of it. Just come home. Mom says she'll back off, give us space." "Mom says?" I laughed. "You still don't get it. This isn't about your mother anymore. It's about you choosing her over us every single time. That's not fair. Neither is emptying our savings without telling me. Neither is lying about credit cards and hotel meetings." Sarah appeared beside me, arms crossed. "I think you should leave, Ryan." He ignored her. "Claire, please. I got us tickets to Italy, a family vacation, just the 3 of us. No mom, no business talk. We can fix this." The invitation caught me off guard. Italy had always been our dream trip, planned but never taken because something always came up, usually involving Marjorie or family obligations. "When did you book these tickets?" I asked. "Last week. Right after everything." "With what money?" His silence was answer enough. "Let me guess, your mother offered to pay." I turned away. "Goodbye, Ryan." "Claire, I'll have my lawyer contact you about visitation arrangements for Emma." As Sarah showed him out, I returned to the guest room and its wall of evidence. The Italy tickets were just another manipulation, another way to sweep everything under the rug. But maybe I could use this. Turn their game around on them. I picked up my phone and opened my banking app. The settlement account I'd opened yesterday was ready. Time to show Ryan and Marjorie what happened when they underestimated me. "Hey Sarah," I called out. "How do you feel about a trip to Italy?" The cafe near my office felt like neutral territory as I waited for Ryan to arrive. After 2 weeks of communicating through lawyers, he'd finally agreed to discuss the Italy trip without his mother present. I'd spent those weeks planning, preparing, making sure every detail was perfect. "Sorry I'm late." Ryan slid into the seat across from me, looking more put together than the last time I'd seen him. "Traffic was Your mother's car is parked around the corner, I interrupted. I saw her drop you off. He had the decency to look embarrassed. She was worried about me making decisions without her input? I pulled out the Italy itinerary I'd prepared. Here's the deal, Emma and I will go with you to Italy. 2 weeks, separate rooms, and most importantly, no Marjorie. Claire, be reasonable. Mom already booked her ticket. Of course she had. I took a slow sip of coffee, letting the silence stretch. Fine, I finally said. Marjorie can come. But I have conditions. Ryan's relief was visible. Anything. First, separate hotels. You and your mother can stay wherever you want, but Emma and I will be at the villa I've chosen. Mom won't like. Second, I continued, I want access to all the financial records. Everything about Uncle Marcus's business, the investments, the credit cards. My lawyer needs them by tomorrow. His face darkened. That's not. And third, I slid a document across the table. You'll sign this agreement giving me sole custody of Emma during the trip. What? No way. Then no Italy. I started gathering my things. Emma and I can vacation somewhere else. Wait. He grabbed my wrist. Please. I miss her. I miss you. I pulled away. Should have thought of that before letting your mother run our lives. She means well, he insisted. The business deal was just bad timing. Uncle Marcus is working on paying everyone back. Everyone. I raised an eyebrow. How many people did you and your mother convince to invest? His silence told me everything. My phone buzzed, a text from Sarah. Documents received. You were right about Marcus Adams. I smiled. While Ryan had been busy coordinating with his mother, I'd been doing my own research. Uncle Marcus's business was starting to look less like bad investments and more like a family-run Ponzi scheme. 1 week, I said. That's my final offer. 7 days in Italy, starting with 3 days in Rome. You and Marjorie stay at least 5 kilometers from our villa. But those are my terms. Take them or leave them. He stared at the custody agreement. And if I sign this, then we leave next Friday. Emma gets to see her father, and everyone gets what they want. What do you want, Claire? I thought about the evidence building in Sarah's spare room, the paper trail leading straight to Marjorie's carefully hidden accounts. I want justice. For what? A few bad investments. No. I stood up. 4 years of manipulation. For watching you choose your mother over your daughter. For every time Marjorie undermined me while you stood silent. She's coming on this trip, he said firmly. I'm counting on it. As I walked out, I saw Marjorie's car pull up. She'd been waiting, probably expecting Ryan to cave to my demands. But she didn't know about my meetings with other victims of Marcus's scheme, or the documents Sarah had uncovered about Marjorie's role in it all. Let them think they'd won. Let them believe I was desperate to save my marriage. In 1 week, we'd all be in Italy, and I'd finally show them what happened when you push too far. My phone buzzed again. Sarah, flight confirmations received. Operation Karma is go. I smiled, thinking of the villa I'd rented, coincidentally right next door to one of Marcus's biggest investors. A widow who'd lost everything to the Adams family scheme. Marjorie had no idea what was waiting for her in Rome. Game on, I whispered, watching Ryan climb into his mother's car. Game on. Rome was supposed to be beautiful in June. Instead, the suffocating heat matched the tension at our family dinner in Trastevere. Emma picked at her pasta while Marjorie held court, detailing everything wrong with my choice of restaurant. The sauce is clearly store-bought, she announced, waving down the waiter. Ryan, darling, remember that lovely place we found this morning? The one with the proper Italian chef. I gripped my wine glass tighter. 3 days into our trip, and Marjorie had somehow crashed every single activity I'd planned, despite our agreement about separate accommodations. Actually, I said, pulling out my phone, I have a meeting tomorrow morning. With Isabella Rossi. The color drained from Marjorie's face. Ryan looked confused. Who's Isabella Rossi? He asked. Just another one of Uncle Marcus's investors. I smiled at Marjorie. You remember her, don't you? The widow who lost her life savings. Marjorie's fork clattered against her plate. Ryan, I'm feeling rather unwell. Perhaps we should. She's not the only one I'm meeting, I continued. There's quite a group of them here in Rome. Funny coincidence, isn't it? Claire, Ryan warned. If this is about the business, It's about everything. I turned to Marjorie. Tell him. Tell him how you and Marcus targeted grieving widows. How you used Ryan to convince them to invest. I did no such thing. Marjorie's voice rose. Marcus made his own choices. I merely helped him find victims? I pulled out a folder. I have the emails, Marjorie. Every single one. Mommy. Emma's small voice cut through the tension. I don't feel good. I reached for her just as she threw up all over the table. Chaos erupted. Marjorie jumping back in disgust. Ryan calling for the waiter. Me trying to comfort Emma. She's burning up, I said, touching her forehead. The heat, Marjorie declared. I told you this restaurant was unsuitable. She needs a doctor, Ryan said. I'll take her back to our villa. I stood up, gathering Emma in my arms. Don't be ridiculous, Marjorie cut in. Our hotel has a doctor on call. Ryan, help Claire bring her there. No. I held Emma tighter. We're going to our villa. But Emma's fever spiked during the taxi ride. By the time we arrived, she was barely conscious. The local doctor took one look and insisted on hospitalization. She's severely dehydrated, he explained in broken English. Need tests, observation. The next hours blurred in a haze of hospital corridors and Italian medical terms I couldn't understand. Ryan handled the paperwork while Marjorie mysteriously disappeared, claiming she needed to make some calls. Around midnight, my phone buzzed. Sarah, Isabella called. Marjorie's trying to leave the country. Flight booked for 6 a.m. I looked at Emma, finally sleeping peacefully in the hospital bed, and 4 in her tiny arm. Ryan dozed in a chair nearby. Everything I'd planned, all my careful revenge, none of it mattered now. Another text from Sarah. Police are ready. Just say the word. I stepped into the hallway, my finger hovering over the reply button. Through the window, I could see the lights of Rome, mocking all my schemes and plans. Claire? Ryan's voice behind me. The doctor wants to talk about Emma's tests. I turned, and the look on his face stopped my heart. They found something, he said quietly. Something that might explain why she's been so tired lately. They want to run more tests, but what? They're saying it might be serious. Really serious. His voice cracked. Mom's already calling specialists in the States. Of course she was. Even now, Marjorie was taking control. I looked at my phone again, at Sarah's waiting message. I could end this right now. One text and Marjorie would be arrested before she could board her flight. Everything I'd discovered about her role in Marcus's scheme would come to light. But Emma needed us, all of us, focused on her, not on revenge. I deleted Sarah's message and walked back into Emma's room, where machines beeped steadily, and my daughter looked so small against the white hospital sheets. Sometimes karma had to wait. The hospital's fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows as I stared at the test results in my hands. Anemia. Not cancer or anything life-threatening, just severe anemia that had gone unnoticed for months. Emma would be fine with proper treatment, but I couldn't shake the guilt. How had I missed the signs while plotting my revenge? I've arranged everything. Marjorie swept into the waiting room, designer handbag swinging. The private jet is waiting. We'll have Emma back in the States by morning. What jet? I looked up from the paperwork. The doctor said she can travel commercially once her iron levels. Don't be difficult, Claire. Ryan's already agreed. Of course he had. I found him in Emma's room, packing her things. You're letting her do this? I asked. Mom knows the best specialists. She's already scheduled appointments. Without consulting me, I grabbed the backpack from his hands. I'm her mother. You can't just. Can't what? Marjorie appeared behind me. Can't ensure my granddaughter gets proper care? The care you clearly failed to provide. Something snapped inside me. Like you provided care for those investors? For Isabella Rossi's children who lost their college funds. Mom. Ryan's voice wavered. What's she talking about? I pulled out my phone, opening the email folder I'd been saving. Show him, Marjorie. Show him how you and Marcus targeted grieving families. How you used their children's futures to fund your lifestyle. This is hardly the time, Marjorie started. It's exactly the time. I handed Ryan my phone. Read them. Every email where she coached Marcus on which widows to approach. How to use their grief to manipulate them. Ryan scrolled through the messages, his face growing paler. "Mom, these can't be real. They're taken out of context," Marjorie insisted. "I was trying to help Marcus rebuild. By stealing from people like Isabella?" I cut in. "Her husband died of the same cancer you claimed would kill Emma if we didn't take your private jet right now." The room fell silent except for Emma's steady breathing and the quiet beep of monitors. "You knew," Ryan whispered. "You knew she just had anemia, didn't you?" Marjorie's facade cracked slightly. "I was trying to protect us. Once Claire started meeting with those investors." "Those victims," I corrected. "We need to leave now," Marjorie insisted. "Before she ruins everything." "Ryan, help me with Emma's things." Ryan didn't move. "Did Uncle Marcus really lose their money?" "Of course not," Marjorie snapped. "It's all safely invested in your offshore accounts?" I pulled out another document. "Sarah's good with computers, Marjorie. Really good. You had no right." "I had every right." My voice rose enough to make Emma stir. I lowered it again. "You stole our money, manipulated my husband, and tried to take my daughter." "Take your daughter?" Marjorie laughed. "I'm trying to save this family." "No," Ryan said quietly. "You're trying to save yourself." The look Marjorie gave him could have frozen hell. "After everything I've done for you." "You mean like bankrupting us?" Ryan scrolled through more emails. "Using me to convince people to invest their life savings in a scam?" "Ryan, please. Get out." He didn't shout it. He didn't have to. "The police are waiting downstairs," I said. "Isabella and the others pressed charges this morning. You can either walk down there yourself, or I can call them up here." Marjorie straightened her designer jacket, dignity wrapped around her like armor. "You'll regret this. Both of you." "No," I said, moving to Emma's bedside. "We already regret not doing it sooner." We watched her walk out, head high, straight into the arms of waiting Italian police officers. Ryan sank into the chair by Emma's bed, still clutching my phone. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I should have seen it. Should have stopped her." "You did," I said. "Just now. You finally did." Emma stirred, blinking sleepily. "Where's Grammy going?" I stroked her hair, feeling the weight of years lift from my shoulders. "Grammy's going away for a while, sweetie. But we're going to be okay." For the first time in months, I actually believed it. 6 months after Rome, I stood in our empty house, watching the movers load the last of Ryan's belongings into their truck. Emma played in the backyard, her energy fully restored, while Sarah helped me sort through old photos. "Look at this one," Sarah said, holding up a picture from my wedding. "Marjorie's face when you smashed cake into Ryan's face. She looked ready to commit murder." "She did worse than that," I replied, thinking of the trial next month. Isabella and the other victims had recovered most of their money, but the emotional damage was done. Marjorie's plea deal meant she'd serve minimal time, though her reputation was destroyed. The doorbell rang. Ryan stood there, looking uncertain in jeans and a t-shirt, no more expensive suits bought with stolen money. "Just came to say goodbye to Emma," he said. "And to give you this." He handed me an envelope. Inside was a check, a big one. "It's everything I could recover from Mom's accounts," he explained. "I know it doesn't make up for." "No," I agreed. "It doesn't." Emma's squeal of "Daddy" broke the tension. She launched herself into his arms, and for a moment, I saw the man I'd married, before his mother's influence, before the lies. "Uncle Marcus called," Ryan said quietly while Emma showed him her new drawings. "He's making full restitution to everyone Mom involved in the scheme, selling his houses, his boats, everything. Better late than never." I tucked the check away. "How is she?" "Angry. Bitter. She still thinks she did nothing wrong." He sighed. "The therapist says it might take years to unpack all her control issues." "And you?" "Working on it. The new job's helping, being away from finance, doing something honest." Emma tugged at his sleeve. "Daddy, can we get ice cream?" Ryan looked at me questioningly. We'd stuck to supervised visits since Italy, but something had shifted. Maybe it was the therapy he'd started, or the way he'd testified against his mother despite her emotional manipulation. Or maybe it was just time. "Go ahead," I said. "Just have her back before dinner." After they left, Sarah helped me take down the last of the family photos. "You sure about this?" she asked. "The house has good memories too. It's time for new memories." I looked around the empty living room. Besides, The apartment near Emma's new school is perfect. And being closer to you won't hurt. Speaking of new beginnings. Sarah hesitated. Isabella called. She's starting a support group for families affected by financial fraud. She thinks your experience could help others. I thought about the letter that had started everything, still tucked away in my desk. How different would things be if I'd just confronted Ryan immediately? If I'd never planned my elaborate revenge? You know what's funny? I said, packing the last photo album. I spent months plotting revenge against Marjorie, but in the end, the truth was enough. She destroyed herself. And Ryan, he's trying. That's more than his mother ever did. Through the window, I could see Emma's abandoned swing set swaying in the breeze. Soon another family would make memories here, unknowing of the drama these walls had witnessed. My phone buzzed, a text from Ryan. Emma wants to know if you'll join us for ice cream. Says it's not the same without Mommy. I looked at Sarah, who smiled knowingly. Go, she said. Healing happens in small steps. As I drove to the ice cream shop, I thought about karma and revenge, about justice and forgiveness. Marjorie had taught me more than she'd ever intended. About strength, about standing up for what's right, and about letting go. Emma waved frantically when I pulled up, chocolate ice cream already smeared across her face. Ryan sat nearby, looking both hopeful and uncertain. Mommy, I saved you a seat. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. Sometimes it's about building something better from the ashes they left behind. I sat down with my daughter and her father, ready to see what we could build. The call came at 3:47 a.m. I remember staring at my phone's harsh blue light, my mother's name flashing on the screen like a warning sign. Nobody calls at that hour with good news. My name is Lila, and that call changed everything. He's been arrested, my mother sobbed into the phone. Your brother, Derek. They're saying he stole money.
Milio.
From his company. Her voice cracked. They took him away in handcuffs. I sat up in bed, my sheets pooling around my waist, and tried to process what I was hearing. Derek, golden child, perfect son, successful finance executive Derek, was in jail? The same Derek who'd spent Christmas dinner bragging about his new promotion? Mom, slow down, I said, running a hand through my tangled hair. What exactly happened? The police showed up at his house an hour ago. Sarah called me. She meant Derek's wife. They're saying he embezzled company funds. But it has to be a mistake. Your brother would never. I bit my tongue. Would never what?
Lie? Cheat?
Steal? The same brother who'd borrowed my college fund and convinced our parents it was a smart investment opportunity? The money that was supposed to be my future vanished along with his promises to pay it back. Where are you now? I asked, already knowing the answer.
Home.
I need you, Lila. Please come. The please caught me off guard. My mother rarely asked for anything, especially from me. Her world had always revolved around Derek's needs, his achievements, his problems. I'll be there in 30 minutes, I said, even as a voice in my head screamed not to get involved. The drive to my childhood home was surreal. Street lights cast orange shadows across my dashboard as I navigated the empty roads, my mind racing faster than my car. Part of me felt guilty for the tiny spark of satisfaction that flickered in my chest. The other part wondered if this was just another mess I'd have to help clean up. When I pulled into the driveway, Mrs. Thompson from next door was already there, still in her floral nightgown, arm around my mother on the front porch. The sight stopped me cold. My perfectly put-together mother, reduced to a crying mess in her silk pajamas, clutching a wadded-up tissue. Oh, thank goodness you're here, Mrs. Thompson said, relief evident in her voice. She'd watched our family drama unfold for years from her kitchen window, probably seeing more than any of us realized. My mother launched herself at me, gripping my arms. We have to help him. He must have had a reason. Derek always has a reason. Mom, I said gently, maybe we should wait until we know more details.
No.
You don't understand. This will ruin him. His career, his reputation. She paused, lower lip trembling. What will people think? There it was. The real crisis wasn't that Derek might have committed a crime. It was that people would know about it. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from my Aunt Nora. Saw the news. You okay? Call me when you can. News? My stomach dropped. I pulled out my phone and there it was, already trending locally. Rising finance star Derek Byrne arrested in multi-million-dollar embezzlement scheme. Mrs. Byrne, Mrs. Thompson said softly, let's get you inside. I'll make some tea. As I helped guide my mother through the front door, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the window. I looked exactly how I felt, torn between duty and self-preservation, between family loyalty and the raw truth I'd always known about my brother.
My phone buzzed again.
This time it was a text from an unknown number. Tell Mom I'm sorry. I need help. Please, Lila.
Derek.
Even now, even after everything, he was still trying to pull strings. I stared at the message, my finger hovering over the delete button, when my mother called from inside. Lila? Where are you? I took a deep breath and stepped into the house, leaving the message unanswered. Whatever game Derek was playing this time, I wasn't sure I wanted to be part of it. But as I watched my mother's hands shake while she attempted to make coffee, I realized I might not have a choice. The sun was just beginning to rise, painting the kitchen in shades of pink and gold. It was going to be a long day, and somehow I knew this was only the beginning. 3 days after Derek's arrest, I found myself sitting across from my mother at our dining room table, pushing food around my plate while she dropped a bomb that nearly made me choke on my green beans. I want you to go back to college, she said, setting down her fork. I've been looking at the finances, and with some adjustments, we can make it work. The same finances that couldn't support my education 2 years ago when Derek borrowed my college fund. The irony wasn't lost on me.
Now,
I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. In the middle of all this? She reached across the table, her hand trembling slightly. I know the timing seems strange, but maybe this is exactly the right moment. We could both use something positive to focus on. I stared at her outstretched hand, but didn't take it. The evening news played quietly in the background, where Derek's arrest was still making headlines. His company had released a statement about unprecedented financial misconduct, and the amount he'd allegedly stolen kept growing with each report. What about Derek's legal fees? I asked. Won't those be expensive? My mother's face tightened. Your brother, he made his choices. But I made choices too, Lila. Poor ones. When your father died, I let Derek take control of everything because it was easier than facing reality. I didn't protect you. The admission hung in the air between us. In the kitchen, Mrs. Thompson busied herself washing dishes, pretending not to listen. She'd barely left my mother's side since that first night, probably worried about what would happen if she did. My phone buzzed, another message from Derek. I'd been ignoring them all, but they kept coming, each one more desperate than the last. He's still trying to contact you, isn't he? My mother asked, noticing my expression.
Yeah.
And nothing. I haven't responded. She nodded slowly, then surprised me by saying, good. Before I could respond, the doorbell rang. Through the front window, I spotted Aunt Nora's car in the driveway. My mother's face fell slightly. She and her sister had never seen eye to eye, especially when it came to Derek. I invited her, I said quickly. We need help, Mom. Real help. Nora swept in like a fresh breeze, carrying a laptop and what looked like legal documents. She hugged me tight, then faced my mother. Evelyn, we need to talk about damage control. The press is having a field day, and Sarah's family is threatening to go public with some stories about Derek that you really don't want getting out. My mother paled. What stories? Let's just say the embezzlement might not be his only creative accounting project. Nora set her materials on the table. And Lila, honey, you should hear this too. It affects you. Mrs. Thompson quietly excused herself, but not before squeezing my shoulder supportively. As she left, I caught a glimpse of reporters gathering at the end of our driveway. They'd been circling like vultures since the arrest. Before we start, my mother interrupted, I've just told Lila she can go back to school. I'm fixing things. Nora's eyebrows shot up. Really? And how exactly are you planning to pay for that? I have savings. The savings you've been sending to Derek every month. Nora cut in sharply. Don't look surprised, Evelyn. I'm your sister. I know about the transfers. My stomach lurched. What transfers? The silence that followed was deafening. My mother wouldn't meet my eyes, but her hands were shaking so badly she had to clasp them together. Mom, I pressed, my voice barely a whisper. What transfers? He needed help, she finally said. After the investment thing went wrong. He was in trouble. Real trouble. I couldn't let him. I stood up, so quickly my chair toppled backward. You've been sending him money? All this time? Well, I've been working 2 jobs just to afford my apartment. Lila, please. How much? Nora answered for her. Almost everything, isn't that right, Evelyn? The life insurance from your father, the retirement fund. I didn't wait to hear more. I grabbed my keys and headed for the door, my mother's pleas following me down the hallway. Outside, the reporters perked up, cameras raising. But I had somewhere else to be. It was time to pay my brother a visit. The county jail smelled like despair and cheap disinfectant. I sat in the visitors' area, my hands clasped tightly in my lap, watching my brother through the reinforced glass. Derek looked smaller somehow, his designer suit replaced by an orange jumpsuit that made his skin appear sallow. I didn't think you'd come, he said, his voice crackling through the phone receiver. Neither did I. I studied his face, searching for any sign of remorse. Mom's been sending you money. He had the decency to look away. I needed help. So did I. The words came out sharper than I intended. When you took my college fund, when I had to drop out, when I was working double shifts at the diner, where was my help, Derek? A muscle twitched in his jaw. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I had a plan. You always have a plan. He leaned forward, pressing his hand against the glass. Listen, there's something you need to know. About Dad's accident.
The door behind me pushed open.
I turned to see Sarah, Derek's wife, storming in with a manila envelope. Her mascara was smeared, and her normally perfect hair was disheveled. You bastard, she spat at Derek. I found the other accounts. Derek's face went ash white. Sarah, wait. Not just the company's money, but your parents' savings? Your sister's future? She slapped the envelope against the glass. And now I find out you've been funneling money to some woman in Phoenix? My head snapped up. What woman? Sarah, please, Derek begged, but she was already pulling documents from the envelope, pressing them against the glass. Bank statements, hotel receipts, a lease agreement. All in the name of Christine Weber. Sarah's voice cracked. 3 years, Derek. While I was planning our family, you were building a life with someone else. The room started spinning. Christine Weber. The name hit me like a physical blow. Dad's accident had happened near Phoenix. He'd been there on business, or at least that's what Derek had told us. He'd been the one to identify the body, handle the arrangements, manage the estate. What did you do? I whispered, the pieces falling into place with horrifying clarity. Derek's eyes met mine, and for the first time, I saw real fear in them. Lila, I can explain. I stood up so fast my chair clattered backward. Did Dad know? About Christine? About the money? He was going to ruin everything, Derek said quietly. He found out about the initial embezzlement, threatened to go to the board. I just needed him to listen, to understand. Oh my God. Sarah stumbled backward, one hand covering her mouth. The brake lines. They said the brake lines were tampered with. The room went silent except for the buzzing fluorescent lights overhead. I felt bile rising in my throat as memories flooded back. Derek insisting on handling Dad's car after the accident, refusing to let Mom see the body, rushing through the funeral arrangements. I'm calling the police, Sarah announced, already pulling out her phone. They won't believe you, Derek said, but his voice wavered. There's no proof. I thought of Mom at home, still defending him, still believing in her golden child. I thought of the years of manipulation, the stolen opportunities, the lies that had shaped our family. Actually, I said, pulling out my phone and stopping the recording I'd been making since I sat down, there is. Derek's face contorted with rage. He slammed his fist against the glass, making me jump. "You don't understand what it's like," he shouted. "Always having to be perfect, always having to succeed. Dad was going to take everything away." A guard appeared, attracted by the commotion. As they led Derek away, still shouting, I turned to Sarah. "We need to talk to Aunt Nora. She's a lawyer." Sarah nodded numbly, clutching the envelope of evidence. "What about your mother?" I thought of Mom, who had given everything to protect Derek, who had chosen him over and over again. The truth would destroy her. But as I walked out of the jail, my phone heavy with Derek's confession, I realized some destructions were necessary. Some things needed to break before they could be rebuilt. My phone buzzed, a text from Mia. "You okay? Need backup." For the first time in days, I felt something close to strength. "Yes," I typed back. To both. The recording of Derek's confession sat like a loaded gun on Aunt Nora's desk. We'd been in her home office for hours, the sky outside fading from afternoon to evening, while she made calls and took notes. Sarah had gone home to pack her things, leaving behind the envelope of evidence that now spread across the mahogany desktop like a roadmap of betrayal. "The police want to reopen the investigation into your father's death," Nora said, hanging up her phone. "But they're worried about the timing. Defense could argue the confession was coerced." I stared at the framed family photo on her wall, Dad's last Christmas. Derek standing proudly between our parents, while I lingered at the edge of the frame. What about Mom? She needs to know. "Your mother's blood pressure has been through the roof," Nora replied, shuffling papers. "The doctor called me yesterday. She's not sleeping, barely eating." My phone buzzed. Mia again. "Found something interesting about Christine Weber. Call me. I have to tell her," I said, standing up. "She deserves the truth." Nora caught my arm. "Lila, wait. There's something else you need to see first." She pulled out an old leather folder. "I found these in your father's safety deposit box. He made me promise to keep them sealed unless something happened to him under suspicious circumstances." Inside were photos, dozens of them. Derek at various ATMs, meeting with shady-looking men, entering hotels. And financial records showing money movements that started long before Dad's death. "He was building a case," Nora explained, "against his own son." My hands shook as I flipped through the evidence. "Why didn't he go to the police?" "Because of your mother. He knew it would destroy her." Nora's voice softened. "He was trying to handle it privately, force Derek into rehab and counseling. The last entry in his journal mentions a confrontation planned for the day he died." The doorbell rang, making us both jump. Through the window, I saw Mom's car in the driveway. "I called her," Nora admitted. "She needs to be here for this." Mom looked smaller somehow as she entered the office, her shoulders hunched against invisible weight. Her eyes fixed on the photos spread across the desk. "What is all this?" "Mom, maybe you should sit."
No.
Her voice was surprisingly firm. "I've been sitting for years. Sitting and watching and making excuses." She picked up one of the photos. "Tell me." So I did. Everything. The confession, Christine Weber, Dad's investigation. With each revelation, I watched another piece of her world crumble. When I finished, she walked to Nora's window and stood there, silent, staring out at nothing. The tension stretched until I couldn't bear it. "Mom, I knew," she whispered. "Not everything, but I knew something was wrong. The way Derek changed after your father started questioning his expenses. The late-night phone calls. The way he insisted on handling everything after the accident." She turned to face us, tears streaming down her face. But I couldn't let myself believe it. Because if I did... Her knees buckled. I rushed forward, catching her before she fell. As I held her, I felt her whole body shaking with sobs. "I failed you both," she gasped. "I failed your father. All these years, protecting the wrong person."
My phone buzzed again.
Mia had sent a photo. Christine Weber's driver's license. The woman in the picture was young, blonde, pregnant. The issue date was 3 months before Dad's death. "Mom," I said gently, "there's more." But before I could continue, Mom's body went rigid. Her hand clutched her chest, face contorting in pain. Mom. Nora was already dialing 911 as Mom collapsed in my arms, her breathing shallow and erratic. As we waited for the ambulance, I held her hand, watching her struggle for each breath, and realized that Derek's true revenge might not be against Dad or me, but against the one person who had sacrificed everything to protect him. The sirens wailed in the distance as I made a decision. The truth could wait. Right now, keeping Mom alive was all that mattered. But somewhere in Phoenix, a woman named Christine Weber had answers I needed, and I was done waiting for them to find me. The funeral home smelled like artificial flowers and regret. I stood at the podium, staring at the faces of mourners who'd come to say goodbye to my mother, wondering how many of them knew the truth about what had killed her. The official cause was a heart attack, but I knew better. It was the weight of secrets that had finally crushed her. Derek wasn't there. His lawyer had requested temporary release to attend, but the judge denied it. Just as well, I wasn't sure I could look at him without screaming. My mother, I started, then stopped as my voice cracked. Aunt Nora squeezed my hand from her seat in the front row. My mother lived her life, trying to protect everyone she loved. Sometimes, that meant protecting people from themselves. The words felt hollow, inadequate. How do you eulogize someone whose last conscious moments were spent realizing their entire life had been built on lies? Mrs. Thompson dabbed at her eyes in the third row. Next to her, Mia sat straight-backed, watching me with concern. She'd postponed her trip to Phoenix to be here, though we both knew Christine Weber wasn't going anywhere. In her final days, I continued, my mother learned the cost of unconditional love. She learned that sometimes the people we protect the most are the ones who... The back door of the funeral home creaked open. Sarah slipped in, looking uncomfortable in her black dress. But it was the man behind her that made my blood run cold. Tall, blonde, wearing an expensive suit. He could have been Derek's twin, just 20 years older. Christine Weber's husband. He had to be. My hands gripped the podium so tight my knuckles went white. The resemblance to my father was uncanny, down to the way he carried himself. Suddenly, Dad's business trips to Phoenix took on a whole new meaning. Lila. Nora whispered from below. Do you need a moment? I shook my head, forcing myself to continue. My mother believed in second chances, in forgiveness, in family. The words tasted bitter. But she also taught me, in the end, that there's a difference between forgiveness and enabling, between love and blind devotion. After the service, I watched as Christine's husband slipped out without speaking to anyone. Sarah caught my eye across the room and nodded slightly. She'd seen him too. She knew what it meant. You holding up okay? Mia appeared at my elbow, offering a cup of coffee. Did you know? I asked. About him? Is that what you found in Phoenix? She hesitated. Christine Weber died 6 months ago. Cancer. But before she died, she left something for you. A letter. The coffee cup nearly slipped from my hand.
What?
It's in my car. I was waiting until after. She gestured at the funeral home. There's more, Lila. About your father, about Derek. Things that change everything. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I'm sorry about Mom. We need to talk.
D.
I showed it to Mia. He's using the prison phone system. They monitor everything. Maybe that's the point, she said quietly. Maybe he wants a record of what he's about to say. The funeral home was emptying out, mourners filing past with murmured condolences. Mrs. Thompson hugged me tight, whispering, Your mother loved you more than you know. Aunt Nora was dealing with the funeral director, her lawyer face firmly in place. I looked down at my phone again, at Derek's message. Then at Christine's husband, now sitting in his car across the street, watching the funeral home. At Sarah, clutching her envelope of evidence. At Mia, with a dead woman's letter burning a hole in her purse. Everyone had pieces of the truth. Everyone except me. I need to see him, I said finally. One last time. Are you sure? Mia asked. After what he did to your parents? I thought of Mom's last moments, of Dad's investigation, of Derek's desperate confession. Of Christine Weber, who died with secrets I was only beginning to understand. Yes, I replied, watching Christine's husband drive away. Because I think our brother might not be the only child Derek Burns Sr. abandoned in Phoenix. The truth was a puzzle, and I finally had all the pieces. I just wasn't sure I was ready for the picture they would reveal. Christine Weber's letter sat unopened in my lap as I waited in the prison visiting area. The envelope felt heavy, like it contained more than just paper. More than just truth. Miss Byrne? The guard's voice startled me. He's ready. Derek looked worse than before. The orange jumpsuit hung loose on his frame, and dark circles ringed his eyes. But when he smiled, I saw our father's ghost. You got my message, he said, settling into the chair across the glass. I got a lot of messages lately. I held up Christine's envelope, including this. The color drained from his face. Where did you get that? Her daughter brought it to Mom's funeral. The one you couldn't attend. I watched his reaction carefully. Our sister, Derek. Did you know about her? He pressed his hand against the glass. Lila, don't open that letter.
Please.
You don't understand what's at stake. What's at stake is the truth. About Dad, about the money, about why you... The prison doors burst open. Sarah stormed in, followed by 2 police officers and a man in a suit I recognized as Derek's lawyer. Stop her, Derek shouted, jumping up. The letter's evidence. She can't. But I was already tearing it open. Inside was a single photograph and a USB drive. The photo showed Dad with Christine and a teenage girl, all smiling at the camera. On the back, in faded ink, Family Secret DB. Junior.
Knows.
Keeping quiet costs $50,000 per month. My hands shook. You were blackmailing Dad? He deserved it. Derek's mask finally cracked. He abandoned them, her and Emma. Paid them off to keep quiet while playing perfect father with us. When I found out, so you killed him? The words felt like glass in my throat. Your own father? He was going to cut them off. Tell Mom everything. I couldn't let him destroy our family. Sarah stepped forward. That's not why you killed him, Derek. Tell her the rest. Derek slumped in his chair. Emma?
She was sick.
Needed expensive treatments. Dad refused to help unless I came clean about the embezzlement. Said he'd only pay if I turned myself in. The photograph crumpled in my fist. So you chose murder over confession. I chose family. He slammed his hand against the glass. Everything I did was to protect. Your inheritance, Sarah interrupted. Tell her about the will, Derek. About what happens to the estate if your father's second family ever came to light. The pieces clicked into place. Dad's investigation, the missing money, Derek's desperate need to keep everything hidden. It wasn't about protecting anyone, it was about protecting his claim to the fortune. Mrs. Byrne, the lawyer interjected, that USB drive contains privileged information. If you turn it over now. I stood up, backing away from the glass. Emma's dying, isn't she? That's why Christine wrote this letter before she died. She wanted her daughter to have a chance. Derek's face twisted. Lila, please. That money is our legacy. Our birthright. Don't throw it away on some stranger. She's our sister. The words echoed through the visiting room. And you let Dad die to keep her suffering. The officers moved toward me, but I was already heading for the door. Derek's shouts followed me down the corridor. You can't prove anything. The evidence is circumstantial. Outside, Mia waited in her car. Did you get what you needed? I plugged the USB drive into her laptop. Documents filled the screen, bank statements, emails, photos. A complete record of Derek's schemes, preserved by a dying mother for her daughter's future. Take me to Phoenix, I said quietly. It's time Emma met her family. As we pulled away, my phone lit up with messages from Derek's lawyer. Threats, promises, warnings. I turned it off, watching the prison disappear in the rearview mirror. The truth hadn't set anyone free. But maybe, just maybe, it could save one last life. Behind us, storm clouds gathered on the horizon. Somehow, I knew the worst was still to come. The Phoenix summer hit like a wall of heat as I stood outside Emma's hospital room. Through the window, I could see her, 17, pale, hooked up to machines that beeped steadily. She had Dad's eyes. "She doesn't know you're coming," her stepfather said, standing beside me. "Or about any of this." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. "Aunt Nora, Derek's been released on bail. Sarah posted it. They're heading your way." My hands clenched around Christine's USB drive. Of course they were. "She needs to know," I said, pushing the door open. Emma looked up from her book, confusion crossing her face. "Can I help you?" "My name is Lila Byrne." The words felt strange, heavy with meaning. "I'm your sister." Her book slipped from her fingers.
What?
Footsteps thundered down the hallway. Derek burst in, Sarah close behind him. He looked wild, desperate, a cornered animal. "Don't listen to her," he said to Emma. "She's lying." I pulled out the photograph. "Dad visited you every month, didn't he?" "Business trips," he called them. Emma's hands shook as she took the picture. "How did you?" "Your mother left evidence," I continued, watching Derek's face. "About the blackmail, about Dad's death, about everything." "Shut up." Derek lunged forward, but Sarah grabbed his arm. "It's over," she said quietly. "The police are already reviewing the USB files." Emma's monitors beeped faster. "I don't understand. What does this have to do with my treatment stopping?" "Tell her, Derek." My voice was ice. "Tell her how you killed Dad when he tried to help her. How you'd rather see your sister die than risk losing your inheritance." "Sister?" Emma whispered. "But Mom said my father was dead."
He is.
Derek's mask finally cracked. Because he was weak. He was going to throw everything away, our reputation, our legacy, for what? Some mistake he made 20 years ago. Emma flinched like she'd been slapped. Her stepfather moved protectively closer. "You're the mistake," I said, stepping between them. "Everything you touch turns toxic. You killed Dad, broke Mom's heart, stole my future. All to protect your precious legacy. Well, here's your legacy, Derek. Look at her. Really look at her." For a moment, silence filled the room except for the steady beep of machines. Emma's face, Dad's eyes, Mom's chin, Derek's stubborn set to her jaw, reflected back at us like a mirror of shared blood. "I can fix this," Derek said suddenly.
Emma leasing.
"Once I access the estate funds." "You won't be accessing anything." Aunt Nora appeared in the doorway, holding up a document. "Your mother's final amendment to her will. Everything goes to Lila, with explicit instructions regarding Emma's care." Derek's face contorted. "You're lying." "No more lies," Sarah said, releasing his arm. "I'm done protecting you." She turned to Emma. "Your mother kept records of everything. The blackmail, the threats, the sabotaged brake lines. Get out." Emma's voice was quiet but firm. "All of you. Except." She looked at me. "Except my sister." Derek moved toward her, but 2 police officers appeared behind Nora. This time, when they reached for him, Sarah didn't stop them. "You don't understand," he called as they led him away. "I did it for us. For the family." "No," I said, watching him go. "You did it for yourself. You always did." When the room cleared, I sat beside Emma's bed. She held up the photograph, studying Dad's face. "He wanted to help," I said softly. "In the end, he chose you. And now," I took her hand, feeling the family resemblance in her grip. "Now we choose each other." Outside, the Arizona sun painted the sky in shades of redemption. Derek's shouts echoed down the corridor, fading like the last traces of his power over us. In their place, something new began to grow. Something built not on lies and manipulation, but on the truth we'd finally uncovered. Emma squeezed my hand and I squeezed back. Some legacies, it turned out, were worth more than money. 6 months after Derek's conviction, I stood in our family home's entryway, surrounded by moving boxes and fresh paint. Emma's latest scan results lay on the coffee table, cancer-free. The doctors called it Amazing what proper medical care could do when money wasn't an obstacle. Mrs. Thompson appeared at the door with a casserole, like she had every Wednesday since Mom died. "The place looks different," she said, taking in the changes. But good different. I'd torn down the heavy curtains Mom always insisted on keeping closed, letting sunlight stream through the windows. Dad's old study, where Derek had plotted his schemes, was now Emma's room for when she visited from Phoenix. "Found something interesting while packing up Derek's old room," Mrs. Thompson continued, setting down the casserole. She pulled an envelope from her pocket, yellowed with age, addressed to Derek in Dad's handwriting. My hands trembled as I opened it. The letter was dated the day before Dad died. "Son, I know about the money. All of it. But more importantly, I know why. The constant pressure to be perfect, to carry the family name, that was my failure, not yours. I pushed you too hard, loved you too blindly, and in doing so, I failed to see the damage I was causing. Tomorrow, I'm going to make things right. With Christine, with Emma, with our whole family. It's time for truth, no matter the cost. I hope you'll understand someday that real legacy isn't about money or reputation. It's about the choices we make when facing our mistakes."
Love, Dad.
The doorbell rang before I could process what I'd read. Sarah stood on the porch, looking uncertain. "The divorce is final," she said without preamble. "And Derek asked me to give you this." Another letter, this one written on prison stationery. "Lila." I read Dad's letter. The one he never got to give me. "The guards let me keep it in my cell, a reminder of what I destroyed, trying to be something I wasn't. I can't undo what I did. To Dad, to Mom, to you, and Emma. But I'm trying to understand it. The therapist here says fear of inadequacy can make monsters of men. I think she's right. Take care of our sister. She deserves the family I never knew how to be. Derek." Sarah shifted awkwardly. "He's different now. Quieter. Sometimes he talks about Dad like he finally sees him as a person." I finished. Not just a standard to live up to. After Sarah left, I walked through the house, touching the walls that held so many secrets. In the kitchen, Mom's recipe box sat open to her favorite cookie recipe, the one she'd make whenever one of us was sad. In Dad's study, now Emma's room, photos of all three of us siblings hung on the wall, the past and present merged into something new. My phone buzzed, a text from Mia. "Ready for your first day back at college tomorrow?" I smiled, remembering Mom's last attempt to make things right. The tuition she'd set aside wasn't just money, it was permission to become whoever I needed to be. Aunt Nora arrived later with dinner and legal papers. "The trust for Emma's medical care is set up," she said. "And the house is officially in your name. What about Derek's share?" He signed it over. Said something about earning his own legacy. As the evening sun painted the walls gold, I opened all the windows, letting fresh air sweep through rooms that had held stale secrets for too long. Mrs. Thompson's casserole warmed in the oven, filling the house with the scent of normal life. On my desk lay my college acceptance letter and a photo of Emma at her last hospital checkup, both of us grinning at the camera. Next to it, Dad's letter to Derek and Derek's letter to me. Bookends to a story of destruction and redemption. Some wounds would never fully heal. Some trusts couldn't be rebuilt. But as I stood in my transformed home, I realized that maybe that was okay. Sometimes the broken pieces make something stronger when reassembled into something new. The future stretched ahead, uncertain but full of possibility. And this time, I was ready to write my own story.
Success tastes like expensive wine and spite. I was savoring both when my mother's number lit up my phone screen for the first time in 3 years. The Chateau Lafite Rothschild 2010, a gift to myself for landing the Peterson account, suddenly tasted like vinegar in my mouth. Hey story lovers. Quick check-in, which part of the globe are you tuning in from? Drop your location below. If you're new and like what you hear, join us by subscribing. Now, let's continue. I'm Lola, and I've spent a decade building a life that doesn't include my family. The irony of their timing never fails to amaze me. They only remember I exist when their golden child, my sister Megan, creates another catastrophe they can't handle. Lola, please don't hang up. Mother's voice cracked, lacking its usual polished control. It's about Megan. And Lucy. My 9-year-old niece's name made my finger pause over the end call button. Lucy, the only innocent player in our family's twisted game of favorites. What has she done now? The words came out sharp enough to cut. She's gone. Just gone. Left Lucy with us 3 days ago, said she was running to the store. A sob caught in her throat. Her phone's disconnected. The apartment manager said she cleared out last week. Lucy keeps asking when her mommy's coming back, and I don't know what to tell her. The wine glass trembled in my hand. I set it down before I could give in to the urge to throw it against the wall. And naturally, you're calling me to clean up her mess. Again. You've always been the responsible one. Funny how I'm suddenly responsible when you need something. Where was that recognition when I graduated top of my class? Or when I made partner at 30? The bitter words tumbled out before I could stop them. Please, Lola. This isn't about us. Lucy needs us. There hasn't been an us since you and Dad shipped me off to live with Grandma Eleanor and Grandpa George when I was 12. Because Megan needed more attention. The silence on the other end spoke volumes. We both knew the truth, they'd chosen Megan, always Megan, until they'd effectively orphaned their younger daughter. Your father and I. We can't handle Lucy right now. We're not as young as we used to be, and with your father's heart condition. I laughed, a hollow sound that echoed in my empty penthouse. Of course. And Megan knew that, didn't she? She knew exactly what she was doing, dropping Lucy with you. Because eventually, you'd have to call me. More silence. Then, will you at least come see Lucy? She asks about you sometimes. The knife twisted deeper. I'd stayed away to protect myself, but in doing so, I'd abandoned Lucy to the same toxic environment I'd escaped. My wine glass caught the light, blood-red liquid casting shadows on my white marble countertop. The same color as the dress Megan wore to Dad's 65th birthday party last year, the one I wasn't invited to, but saw pictures of on Facebook. I'll come tomorrow, I said finally. But not for you or Dad. And certainly not for Megan. Thank you, Lola. We're at. I remember the address, Mother. Some things you can't forget, no matter how hard you try. I ended the call and stared at my reflection in the window. The city lights blurred behind my image, creating a halo effect that made me look like I was burning. Maybe I was. 3 years of carefully constructed peace, shattered by one phone call. But this time would be different. This time, I wasn't the powerless 12-year-old they could push aside. This time, I had resources, influence, and most importantly, nothing left to lose. I picked up my wine glass and raised it to my reflection. Well, Megan, I whispered, you finally did it. You finally gave me the perfect reason to destroy you. The wine tasted sweet again. The familiar crunch of gravel under my tires felt like bones breaking. Our family home hadn't changed, same peeling white paint, same crooked shutters, same suffocating air of disappointment. Mother stood on the porch, wearing her favorite pearl necklace like armor. You didn't have to dress up, she said, eyeing my Armani suit. It's just family. This isn't a family reunion, Mother. This is a crisis management meeting. I brushed past her, the scent of her signature Chanel making my stomach turn. Where's Lucy? Upstairs in Megan's old room. She wrung her hands. She's been so quiet. Of course they'd put her in Megan's room. The shrine to the golden child, preserved like a museum exhibit. I took the stairs 2 at a time, my heels striking each step like a judge's gavel. Lucy sat cross-legged on Megan's old bed, surrounded by teenage photos of her mother. Small, pale, drowning in an oversized sweater I recognized as one of Megan's cast-offs. She looked up, and for a moment, I saw myself at 12, lost, confused, wondering why I wasn't enough. Aunt Lola. Her voice was barely a whisper. Hey, kiddo. I kept my distance, not wanting to spook her. Rough week? She nodded, clutching a photo frame. They keep saying Mom will come back, but... Her lower lip trembled. She packed all our stuff last week. Said we were moving somewhere better. Then she brought me here and... The rage I'd been containing threatened to explode. Megan hadn't just abandoned her daughter, she'd planned it, calculated it. Executed it with the same precision she'd used to manipulate our family for years. Lucy, would you like to? There you are. Father's voice boomed from the doorway. Still making dramatic entrances, I see. I turned slowly, meeting his gaze. He'd aged, but his eyes still held that mixture of disappointment and dismissal I remembered so well. Hello, Father. Still making excuses for Megan, I see. Now, Lola, you don't understand the pressure she's been under. Pressure. I laughed, sharp and cold. Like the pressure of raising a child alone. The pressure of maintaining a job. Or just the pressure of basic human decency. Your sister is gone. I cut him off. Again. And instead of acknowledging that she's abandoned her child, you're standing there defending her. Some things never change. Mother appeared behind him, clutching her pearls. We just need to give her time. She always comes back. And that makes it okay. I gestured to Lucy, who had shrunk further into herself. Look at her. Really look. Does she look like a child who just needs to give her mother time? They both glanced at Lucy, then quickly away, the same way they used to look at me. Like my pain was an inconvenience to their perfect family narrative. We've been thinking, Mother said carefully, perhaps Lucy could stay with Eleanor and George for a while. They did such a good job with you. The words hit like a slap. You mean like when you shipped me off because Megan needed more attention? Because dealing with 2 children was too much work? That's not fair. No, what's not fair is history repeating itself. I moved to stand between them and Lucy. But this time, it's going to be different. Father's face darkened. What are you suggesting? I'm not suggesting anything. I'm telling you what's going to happen. Lucy's coming home with me. The silence that followed was deafening. Lucy's head snapped up, hope and fear warring in her eyes. You can't, Mother started. I can, and I will. Unless you prefer I contact Child Protective Services. I'm sure they'd be very interested in how Megan abandoned her daughter after systematically emptying their apartment. Father stepped forward, his authority card ready to play. Now listen here. No, you listen. I pulled out my phone. 1 call. That's all it takes. Your choice. They exchanged glances, the same silent communication I remembered from childhood, the weighing of options. The calculation of what would cause the least damage to their precious reputation. Finally, Mother nodded stiffly. Perhaps. Perhaps it would be best. Just until Megan returns. Of course, I smiled, all teeth and triumph. Just until Megan returns. Behind me, Lucy released a shaky breath. I didn't turn around. I couldn't let her see the darkness in my eyes, the satisfaction of finally having the upper hand. Because Megan wasn't coming back. Not until I was ready for her to face what she'd done, to Lucy, to me, to all of us. And when that time came, I'd be ready. Lucy's bedroom in my penthouse still had that new paint smell when I found the first letter. 3 days of living together, and already the secrets were surfacing, hidden between the clothes Megan had packed for her daughter. "I thought you might want to read this," Lucy said, holding out a crumpled envelope. Her small fingers trembled. "Mom wrote it before she left." The paper felt like poison in my hands. Megan's flowing script covered both sides, a masterpiece of manipulation addressed to our parents. "They're going to take everything from me," I read aloud, my voice growing colder with each word. "Lucy's trust fund, my inheritance, all of it. I have to disappear for a while, just until I can fix this. Don't let them turn Lucy against me." Lucy hugged herself, drowning in one of my old Harvard sweatshirts. "What trust fund?" I folded the letter carefully, my mind racing. "When did you last see Grandma Eleanor and Grandpa George?" "Never." Lucy's answer hit like a sledgehammer. "Mom always said they didn't want to see us. That they were mad at her for having me so young." The laugh that escaped me wasn't kind. Of course she did. I pulled out my phone, scrolling through recent calls. "Lucy, how would you like to meet them today?" Her eyes widened. "Really? Really? But first." I dialed my private investigator. "Marcus. I need everything you can find on my sister's finances for the past 9 years. Focus on any accounts in Lucy's name. Eleanor and George's house smelled like cinnamon and safety, just as it had when I was 12. Lucy pressed against my side as we walked up the familiar path, her grip on my hand almost painful. "Lola." Eleanor appeared in the doorway, her silver hair gleaming in the afternoon light. Her eyes fixed on Lucy, and tears welled immediately. "Oh my God." "Surprise," I said dryly. "Meet your great-granddaughter. The one Megan told you didn't want to know you." George appeared behind his wife, his weathered face darkening with understanding. "Come inside, both of you. There's something you need to see." In their study, George pulled out a thick folder. "We've been trying to reach Megan for years. After Lucy was born, we set up a trust fund for her education. Your grandfather and I both come from old money, Lola. You know this." I nodded. My own trust fund had helped build my consulting firm. "We did the same for Lucy," Eleanor continued, her voice tight. "But every time we tried to contact Megan, she'd moved. Changed numbers. The lawyers couldn't find her." "How much?" The question burned my throat. George named a figure that made my blood freeze. "It becomes accessible when Lucy turns 18, or in case of emergency, like abandonment by a parent." Lucy's grip on my hand tightened. "Is that why Mom left? Because of money?" "No, sweetheart," I said, the pieces finally clicking into place. "She left because she couldn't access it. But I bet she's been trying." Eleanor moved to her desk, pulling out more papers. "The trust requires annual audits. Last month, we discovered someone tried to forge documents claiming Lucy was living with a legal guardian, your mother, Lola. The signatures were obviously fake." "When was this?" 3 weeks ago. The timeline aligned perfectly. Megan's disappearance, Lucy's carefully packed bags, the letter meant to manipulate our parents into compliance. She'd tried to steal Lucy's future and failed. "I have copies of everything," George said quietly. "Including proof that Megan attempted fraud." Lucy's small voice cut through the tension. "What happens to me now?" I knelt before her, seeing my own childhood pain reflected in her eyes. "That depends on you, kiddo. But I promise you one thing, your mother won't get to hurt you again. Or take my money." "No." I brushed her hair back, my voice hardening. "She won't take anything else from you." Eleanor and George exchanged looks loaded with understanding. They'd watched me rebuild myself after my family's betrayal. Now they'd help me protect Lucy from the same fate. My phone buzzed, Marcus, with preliminary findings. The message made my lips curl into a predatory smile. Lucy, I said softly, how about we get some ice cream with your great-grandparents? We have 18 years of memories to start making up for. And while we did that, I'd start building the trap that would ensure Megan could never harm her daughter again. Because some debts can only be paid in revenge, served cold and calculated, with compound interest. Marcus's report landed in my inbox at 3 in the morning, its contents burning through my carefully constructed plans like acid. I stared at my laptop screen, the glow casting shadows across my home office while Lucy slept down the hall. You're sure about this? I asked during our emergency video call. Marcus nodded, his tired face serious. 6 different identities in the past 9 years. Each time, she'd establish credit, take out loans using Lucy's social security number, then vanish. The pattern's consistent. And the most recent. 2 weeks before she left Lucy with your parents. She took out a $100,000 loan using forged guardianship papers. The money's already gone. I closed my eyes, remembering Lucy's threadbare clothes, the way she'd marveled at having her own bathroom in my penthouse. Where did it go? That's the interesting part. Marcus's typing echoed through the speakers. Wire transfers to an offshore account, then scattered withdrawals across 3 states. But here's what caught my attention, there's a pattern to her movements. She's not running away. She's circling back. My phone buzzed, a text from Mother, Megan called. Says she's sorry. Wants to make things right. Of course she did. The trust fund fraud had failed, but Lucy was still her meal ticket. I switched off my phone without responding. A small sound at the door made me freeze. Lucy stood there in her oversized pajamas, holding the stuffed rabbit Eleanor had given her. I had a bad dream. I closed the laptop. Want to talk about it? She padded over, climbing into my lap like she belonged there. Maybe she did. Mom came back. She was angry that I told you about the letter. She said I ruined everything. My arms tightened around her. Lucy, look at me. Your mother. A crash downstairs cut me off. The security system hadn't chimed, which meant whoever entered had the code. Only 5 people had that code, and 3 of them were asleep across town. Stay here, I whispered, moving Lucy behind my desk. Lock the door after me. Don't open it unless you hear me say, Harvard sweater. The hallway was dark, but I knew every inch of my home. I moved silently, following the sound of someone rummaging through my kitchen. The spare key was always under the rose bush, Megan's voice drifted up. Some things never change, little sister. I flicked on the lights. She stood at my kitchen island, looking expensive in a way that made my blood boil. Designer clothes bought with stolen money, Lucy's money. You look well for someone who's been on the run, I said coldly. Not running. Strategic retreat. She smiled, the same smile that had charmed our parents for decades. Where's my daughter? Safe. Unlike her social security number. Her smile flickered. I don't know what you're talking about. 6 identities, Megan. 6 cities where you destroyed Lucy's future before she could even have one. Did you think no one would find out? You always were dramatic. She waved dismissively. I did what I had to do. Lucy understands. Lucy understands that her mother used her as a human credit card. My voice could have frozen hell. She understands that while she wore second-hand clothes and went hungry, you were living like royalty on stolen money. I'm her mother. You're a thief. And now you're a trespasser. I pulled out my phone. Leave, or I call the police. Your choice. She moved closer, dropping her voice. Mother and father won't let you keep her. They know I'm the better parent. I just need time to. To what? Steal more of her money. Forge more documents. I laughed harshly. Eleanor and George know everything, Megan. The trust fund fraud, the loans, all of it. You've lost. The mask cracked. For a moment, I saw the real Megan, desperate, cornered, dangerous. You bitch. You've always been jealous. Aunt Lola. Lucy's voice from the stairs made us both turn. She stood there, small but straight-backed, clutching her rabbit. I called the police. They're on their way. Megan's face contorted. Lucy, baby, you don't understand. I understand that you stole from me. Lucy's voice shook but held firm. And I want you to leave. The sirens in the distance made Megan's decision for her. She grabbed her bag, pausing at the door. This isn't over. No, I agreed, watching her flee into the night. It's just beginning. Lucy's hand slipped into mine. I'm sorry I didn't stay in the office. I squeezed her fingers. Don't be. Sometimes the best revenge is simply standing your ground. The sirens grew closer, and with them, my resolve strengthened. Megan was right about one thing, this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The temporary custody papers felt heavy in my hands as I watched Lucy sleep on Eleanor's couch. 3 weeks since Megan's midnight visit, and the world had shifted on its axis. My phone buzzed, another message from Mother, their 5th today. They're getting desperate, Eleanor said, setting down 2 cups of tea. Henry called George this morning. Apparently, Megan's lawyer contacted them. What lawyer? The paper crinkled in my tightening grip. The one claiming you kidnapped Lucy. Eleanor's voice was steel wrapped in silk. Your father threatened to support Megan's custody claim unless you see reason. A laugh escaped me, bitter as burnt coffee. Reason? Like when they sent me away because it was reasonable for Megan to have more attention. Lucy stirred, mumbling in her sleep. The bruise-like shadows under her eyes had finally started to fade, but now this. My phone lit up again, an email from Marcus. Security footage from my building's lobby, timestamped last night. I watched Megan escort our parents inside, all 3 of them talking to the doorman. My stomach turned to ice. They're building a case, I said, showing Eleanor the footage. Making it look like I'm keeping Lucy from her loving family. Then we build a better one. Eleanor pulled out a thick manila envelope. George and I have been gathering evidence since that night. Bank records, loan applications, school reports showing Lucy's frequent absences. A key turned in the front door. George entered, his face grim. Lola, we have a problem. Henry's filing for emergency guardianship of Lucy. Claims you're emotionally unstable, seeking revenge against Megan by taking her daughter. The irony burned like acid. And Megan's fraud? The stolen money? They're calling it desperate measures of a struggling single mother. He sat heavily. Your parents are backing her story. Lucy whimpered in her sleep, curling tighter around her rabbit. The sight of her, so small, so vulnerable, made something snap inside me. Call Judge Matthews, I told Eleanor. The one who helped with my emancipation. Tell her it's urgent. Lola, George started. No. I stood, my voice barely above a whisper. They took my childhood. They will not take hers. My phone rang, Mother's number. This time, I answered. We're in your lobby, she said without preamble. Security won't let us up without your approval. Please, Lola. Let's discuss this as a family. Family. The word tasted like poison. Like when you discussed sending me away. Or when you discussed letting Megan steal Lucy's future. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. You're here because Megan needs something. Again. And you're enabling her. Again. She's changed. No, Mother. I've changed. I watched Lucy sleep, peaceful for the first time in weeks. Tell Megan her lawyer can contact mine. And tell Father his threats mean nothing. I have copies of every check he wrote to cover Megan's fraudulent loans. Silence crackled over the line. Then, you wouldn't. Try me. I learned from the best, after all. Megan's not the only one who knows how to play games. Eleanor touched my arm, showing me her phone. A text from Judge Matthews, bring everything tomorrow. 9 a.m. It's not too late, Mother pleaded. We can fix this. Be a family again. Through the window, I could see them in the lobby, Mother, Father, and Megan, looking up at Eleanor's apartment. The perfect family portrait, missing only their discarded daughter and stolen granddaughter. You're right, I said softly. It's not too late. For Lucy. I ended the call, turning to Eleanor. How long until the emergency custody hearing? 3 days. She squeezed my hand. Are you ready for what comes next? Lucy stirred again, this time opening her eyes. Aunt Lola. Are they here? I moved to her side, smoothing her hair. Yes, but they can't hurt you anymore. I promise. Like you promised about the Harvard sweater. A ghost of a smile touched her lips. Exactly like that. I met Eleanor's eyes over Lucy's head. Some promises you keep no matter what. Even if keeping them meant burning every bridge behind you. Even if it meant becoming the villain in their story to be the hero in hers. The war for Lucy's future had begun. And this time, I wasn't the powerless child they could discard. This time, I was ready. The courthouse bathroom mirror reflected a woman I barely recognized. 3 hours into the emergency custody hearing, and Megan's performance had been flawless, tears, remorse, promises of change. The perfect prodigal daughter, with our parents nodding supportively from the gallery. My phone vibrated, Marcus. Bad news. The offshore account's empty. She must have moved the money again. The paper towel shredded in my hands. Without the money trail, proving Megan's fraud became exponentially harder. She'd planned this, timed it perfectly. Just like when we were kids. The bathroom door creaked open. Hiding won't help your case. Megan's voice dripped false concern. Lucy needs her mother. Like she needed you when you were emptying her college fund. I turned slowly. Or when you were using her social security number for loans. Prove it. She smiled, checking her mascara in the mirror. Oh wait, you can't. Funny how evidence disappears, isn't it? What do you want, Megan? Drop the custody case. Tell the judge you overreacted. She reapplied her lipstick, perfect coral pink. I'll let you see Lucy sometimes. Maybe holidays. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, matching the ringing in my ears. You're not getting her trust fund. No. She capped her lipstick. Mother and father are very concerned about your mental state. Your obsession with revenge. The way you've poisoned Lucy against me. Her smile widened. The judge seems quite sympathetic. The door opened again. Lucy stood there, small and pale in her navy dress. Aunt Lola. They're calling us back in. Megan moved toward her daughter. Baby, come here. Lucy stepped back, pressing against my side. The gesture wasn't lost on Megan. Her mask slipped for just a moment, revealing something ugly underneath. "See," she hissed. "This is exactly what I mean. You've turned her against me." The courtroom felt colder when we returned. Judge Matthews' expression gave nothing away as she reviewed the new documents Megan's lawyer had submitted. "Your Honor," Megan's lawyer stood, "we have evidence that Miss Crawford has been systematically alienating Lucy from her mother and grandparents. Text messages, emails, witness statements." My lawyer objected, but I barely heard him. I was watching Lucy, sitting between Eleanor and George. She looked so much like I did at 12, waiting for adults to decide her fate. Furthermore, the lawyer continued, Miss Crawford's fixation on alleged financial improprieties suggests a concerning pattern of behavior. Her own grandparents had to take her in as a child due to similar unfounded accusations against her sister. The old rage rose like bile. They were rewriting history again, turning me into the villain of their story. Just like before. Your Honor, I stood, ignoring my lawyer's warning hand. I request a brief recess. In the hallway, Eleanor grabbed my arm. Lola, don't. I have to. I pulled away, heading for the courthouse steps where reporters had gathered. Megan wanted to play dirty. Fine. My phone felt heavy as I dialed Marcus's number. Release everything. Lola, think about everything, Marcus. The bank records, the loan applications, the school reports. Send it all to every news outlet waiting outside. Now. I ended the call, turning to find Lucy standing behind me. I'm sorry, she whispered. I heard what Mom said in the bathroom. My carefully constructed plans crumbled. In trying to protect Lucy, I was dragging her into exactly the kind of public spectacle I'd wanted to avoid. Your Honor. Megan's voice rang out from the courthouse doors. See? She's trying to manipulate the media. This is exactly what we've been talking about. Reporters surged forward, cameras flashing. Lucy flinched, and in that moment, I saw myself making the same mistake our parents had, putting adult vendettas above a child's well-being. Judge Matthews appeared in the doorway, her face thunderous. Miss Crawford, return to my courtroom immediately. Lucy's hand found mine as cameras continued clicking. I'm scared, she admitted. Me too, I whispered, leading her back inside. Because for the first time, I realized revenge might cost me the very thing I was fighting to protect. And Megan knew it. Her triumphant smile said everything, checkmate, little sister. Just like always. Judge Matthews' chambers felt like a tomb. The morning headlines screamed across her desk, family fortune at center of custody battle, sister versus sister. The fight for Lucy, fraud allegations rock prominent family. Explain this. The judge tapped Marcus's full report, delivered to every major news outlet yesterday. Now. Before I could speak, the door burst open. Megan stormed in, followed by our parents and both lawyers. Your Honor, this is exactly what we. Sit down, Miss Crawford. Judge Matthews' voice could have frozen hell. All of you. Now. Lucy's school records lay open on the desk, dozens of absences, sudden withdrawals, missing parent signatures. Next to them, bank statements showed a pattern of deposits and withdrawals that made my stomach turn. These records, the judge continued, show systematic financial abuse spanning 9 years. Miss Crawford, Megan, would you care to explain why your daughter's social security number appears on loans in 6 different states? Megan's mask slipped. I had no choice. Lucy's trust fund is untouchable until she's 18. Eleanor's voice cut through the room as she and George entered. We made sure of that after we saw what you did to Lola's college fund. Mother gasped. Father's face darkened. What are you talking about? The money you thought Lola spent. George's voice was steel. Megan borrowed it. With forged signatures. Just like she's been doing with Lucy's identity. That's a lie. Megan stood, desperate. They're all lying. Mother, father, you know I wouldn't. Sit down. Judge Matthews pointed to a manila envelope. This arrived this morning. Care to explain why you were attempting to access Lucy's trust fund just yesterday? With forged guardianship papers. The room tilted. Yesterday, while she was playing grieving mother in court, she'd been trying to steal Lucy's future. Again. I needed it for Lucy, Megan's voice cracked. Everything I did was for her. Like abandoning her. The words escaped before I could stop them. Like using her identity to fund your lifestyle while she wore second-hand clothes. At least I didn't turn her against her family. No, you just sold her future to the highest bidder. Enough. Judge Matthews slammed her hand down. Where is Lucy now? With the court counselor, my lawyer answered. As requested. The judge nodded. Bring her in. I think it's time we heard from Lucy herself. Lucy entered, clutching her rabbit. Her eyes darted between Megan and me, then fixed on the judge. Lucy, Judge Matthews said gently, do you understand what's happening here? Yes. Her voice was small but steady. You're deciding if I stay with Aunt Lola or go with Mom. And what do you want? Megan leaned forward, her most winning smile in place. Baby, you know Mommy loves. Miss Crawford, one more word and I'll have you removed. The judge turned back to Lucy. Go on, sweetheart. Lucy's fingers twisted in her rabbit's fur. Last week, Mom came to my school. She said if I went with her, we'd have lots of money. That we could buy anything we wanted. Her voice shook. But she wanted me to sign some papers first. The room went deadly quiet. What kind of papers, Lucy? The judge asked. Bank papers. She said. She said if I signed them, we could get my college money now instead of later. Lucy's eyes met mine. But Aunt Lola always says education is the one thing nobody can take from you. Megan lunged forward. She's lying. Lucy, tell them you're lying. Security. Judge Matthews called sharply. As guards entered, Megan's composure shattered completely. You ungrateful little, after everything I've done. Mother, father, tell them. But our parents sat frozen, finally seeing their golden child for what she was. Your Honor, my lawyer stood, given these revelations. Indeed. The judge's eyes were flint. Bailiff, please take Miss Crawford into custody pending charges of identity theft and attempted fraud. As for custody. She looked at Lucy, then at me. Sometimes the best revenge is living well. Don't you agree, Miss Crawford? I met Megan's eyes as the bailiff approached. For once, I didn't see my perfect older sister. I saw a stranger who'd finally run out of second chances. Lucy's hand slipped into mine as Megan was led away, our parents' stunned silence worth more than any victory speech. Sometimes justice comes not with a bang, but with the quiet triumph of truth finally heard. The Harvard acceptance letter trembled in Lucy's hands. I got in, she whispered, then louder, Aunt Lola, I got in. I caught her in a fierce hug, remembering a smaller version of her clutching a stuffed rabbit. Now 16, she stood nearly as tall as me, her dreams intact despite everything Megan had tried to steal. Of course you did. Eleanor's voice cracked with pride. She and George had insisted on being here for this moment, just as they'd been there for every important milestone since the custody battle. My phone buzzed, Mother's number. The same call she made every month, seeking reconciliation, promising change. I declined it, just like always. Mom's hearing is next week, Lucy said quietly, setting the letter down. They want me to testify at her parole board meeting. The words hung heavy in the air. 7 years into her sentence for fraud and identity theft, Megan was making another bid for freedom. Another attempt to rewrite history. You don't have to go, I reminded her. I know. Lucy traced the Harvard crest on her acceptance package. But I think I want to. Not for her. For me. Understanding clicked into place. Lucy wasn't that frightened 9-year-old anymore, just as I was no longer the angry sister seeking revenge. We'd both grown beyond the roles Megan had tried to force us into. I'll go with you, I offered. We all will, George added, his hand finding Eleanor's. The parole hearing room felt smaller than I remembered. Megan sat at the front, prison pale but still beautiful, still wearing manipulation like perfume. Our parents sat behind her, older, grayer, but still choosing her side even after everything. Lucy stepped up to the podium, her voice steady. My mother taught me something valuable, she began. She taught me that family isn't about blood or obligation. It's about choice. Megan's perfect mask cracked slightly. Every day, we choose who we want to be, Lucy continued. 7 years ago, my aunt chose to protect me instead of seeking revenge. She chose to build something new instead of destroying something broken. I felt Eleanor's hand slip into mine. So today, I choose to. Lucy met Megan's eyes directly. I choose to forgive you, Mom. Not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace. I choose to succeed despite you, not because of you. And I choose to leave the past where it belongs, in the past. The parole board shifted, papers rustling. Mother dabbed at her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. Father stared straight ahead, seeing but not understanding, just like always. Harvard, Megan said suddenly. You got in. Lucy nodded once. I had dreams like that once. Something genuine flickered across Megan's face, regret, perhaps, or recognition of what she'd thrown away. I know, Lucy replied. The difference is, I'm actually going to achieve mine. We left before the board announced their decision. It didn't matter anymore. The real victory wasn't in Megan's punishment or my revenge. It was in the young woman walking beside me, head high, future bright. Back home, Lucy pinned her acceptance letter next to my old Harvard diploma. Think they have enough room in the economics department for another Crawford? They better. I smiled, watching her arrange the pins just so. Though technically, you're a Crawford Mills now. She turned, her expression serious. The adoption papers came through. I nodded. We'd filed them months ago, but the timing felt right to share now. If you want to sign them. Lucy launched herself into my arms, just like she had that first night in my penthouse. I've been your daughter since the day you chose me over revenge, she whispered. My phone buzzed again, Mother, persistent as ever. But this time, Lucy reached over and declined it for me. Some choices, she said wisely, you have to keep making every day. I looked at our reflection in the window, aunt and niece, guardian and ward, now mother and daughter. All by choice, not chance. Not revenge or obligation or guilt. The Harvard acceptance letter caught the late afternoon light, casting crimson shadows across our faces. Like blood, I thought, but also like sunrise. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's simply living well, loving fiercely, and letting go of the past one conscious choice at a time. Lucy smiled at our reflection, and I smiled back. We'd chosen well.
I stared at the 2 pink lines on the pregnancy test, my heart racing as I sat on the cold tile of my office bathroom floor. 5 minutes before the biggest presentation of my career, and here I was, discovering I was going to be a mother. My name is Callie, and this moment should have been pure joy. Instead, it felt like the universe had a twisted sense of timing. "Callie, we need you in the conference room." Sarah's voice echoed through the bathroom, making me jump. I quickly shoved the test into my blazer pocket, splashed some water on my face, and straightened my shoulders. "Coming." I called back, my voice steadier than I felt. The presentation went perfectly. I barely remember giving it. My mind kept drifting to the test in my pocket, feeling like it was burning a hole through the expensive fabric. The moment it ended, I practically ran to my car, my fingers already dialing Ethan's number. "Hey, can you meet me for lunch?" I asked, trying to keep my voice casual. "I know you're busy, but it's important." There was a pause on the other end. "I've got a client meeting in 30 minutes. Can it wait until tonight?" Something in his tone made my stomach twist. "No, it really can't. Please? 20 minutes at Carlo's." He sighed. "Fine, 20 minutes. I got to Carlo's first and chose a quiet corner booth. When Ethan walked in, his architect's portfolio tucked under his arm, he looked distracted. He barely kissed my cheek before sliding into his seat. "Everything okay?" he asked, already checking his phone. "You sounded weird on the call." I took a deep breath. "I'm pregnant." His fingers froze over the screen. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The bustling lunch crowd seemed to fade away as I watched his face, waiting for any sign of the excitement I'd felt earlier. "Are you sure?" he finally asked, his voice carefully neutral. I pulled out the test and placed it on the table between us. "Pretty sure. I'll make a doctor's appointment to confirm, but..." I trailed off, watching him stare at the test like it might bite him. "This isn't really the best timing," he said slowly. "With the Peterson project just starting and your promotion. Is there ever really a perfect time?" I tried to smile, but it felt forced. "We've been married for 3 years, Ethan. We've talked about having kids." "Yeah, eventually." He ran a hand through his dark hair, a nervous habit I usually found endearing. Now it just made my chest tight. "Have you thought about what this means?" "Your career, our lifestyle, everything's going to change." "Of course I've thought about it. I've been thinking about nothing else for the past 2 hours." I leaned forward, lowering my voice. "But we can figure it out together, right?" Before he could answer, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then stood up abruptly. "I need to get to that meeting. We'll talk more tonight, okay?" He was gone before I could respond, leaving me alone with an untouched glass of water and a pregnancy test on the table. As I gathered my things, I noticed an older woman at the next table watching me with sympathy in her eyes. "First baby?" she asked softly. I nodded, not trusting my voice. "Don't worry, dear. Sometimes it takes them a while to come around." She smiled kindly. My mother-in-law always said men need time to grow into the idea of fatherhood. My mother-in-law. The thought of telling Lorraine sent a chill down my spine. She'd been dropping hints about grandchildren since our wedding day, but somehow I doubted this news would bring us closer. As I drove back to work, I couldn't shake the feeling that this baby wasn't just going to change our lives. It was going to expose cracks in our foundation I hadn't even known were there. And something about Ethan's reaction told me this was just the beginning. Moving in with Lorraine was Ethan's idea. He said it made sense with the baby coming, but 3 weeks into living under my mother-in-law's roof, I was starting to think it was a carefully orchestrated form of torture. "Callie, dear, are you really having coffee?" Lorraine's voice drifted over my shoulder as I poured myself a much-needed cup. "In your condition?" I took a deliberate sip. "My doctor said 1 cup a day is perfectly fine." She busied herself reorganizing the already immaculate kitchen counter. "In my day, we were much more careful. But I suppose modern mothers have different priorities." The way she said modern made it sound like a curse word. I gripped my mug tighter, counting backwards from 10 in my head. "Speaking of priorities," she continued, "Ethan mentioned you're still working full-time?" "Yes, I am." I checked my phone, praying for a work emergency to rescue me from this conversation. "The baby isn't due for another 6 months." "Well, I just hope you're not putting unnecessary stress on my grandchild." She paused, then added with a tight smile, "Or yourself, of course." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. Ethan's face appeared on the screen, and I nearly knocked over my coffee in my rush to answer. "Hey," I said, stepping into the hallway. "Please tell me you're coming home for dinner tonight." "About that?" His voice had that apologetic tone I was hearing more and more lately. "The Peterson project is behind schedule. I need to stay late." I leaned against the wall, suddenly exhausted. "Again? That's the third time this week." "I know, I'm sorry. But this client is huge for the firm. You understand, right?" From the kitchen, I could hear Lorraine humming as she rearranged my carefully organized pregnancy vitamins. "Sure," I said. "I understand." That evening, dinner was excruciating. Lorraine had invited her church friends over, apparently a weekly tradition I was now expected to participate in. I sat through 2 hours of thinly veiled criticism about everything from my career to my choice of prenatal vitamins. "Did you know," one of them said, helping herself to more casserole, "that Lorraine raised both her children without any help? And she still managed to keep a spotless home." Lorraine beamed. "Different times, Margaret. These days, young women want it all: career, family, independence. Sometimes I wonder if they realize what they're sacrificing." "I'm not sacrificing anything," I said, my voice sharper than intended. "I'm adding to my life, not subtracting." The table fell silent. Lorraine's smile didn't waver, but her eyes hardened. "Of course, dear. I just hope you're not spreading yourself too thin. After all, we wouldn't want anything to happen to the baby." Something in her tone made me pause. There was more than judgment there, something darker, almost like fear. I remembered Ethan mentioning once that he'd had a sister, but the topic was strictly off-limits. Later that night, as I was putting away leftovers, I found an old photo that had slipped behind the refrigerator. It showed a younger Lorraine holding a baby girl, her smile genuine and warm, nothing like the carefully controlled expressions I was used to seeing. "Where did you find that?" Lorraine's voice made me jump. She snatched the photo from my hands, her fingers trembling slightly. "It was behind the fridge." "Is that?" "It's nothing," she cut me off. "Just an old photo. You should get some rest. You're looking rather pale." As she hurried away, clutching the photo to her chest, I heard her muttering under her breath, "We have to be more careful this time. We have to do better." I stood in the kitchen, my hand instinctively moving to my growing belly. For the first time since moving in, I felt more than just annoyed or frustrated. I felt afraid. There was something wrong in this house, something hidden behind Lorraine's perfect facade and Ethan's constant absences. My phone buzzed again, another message from Ethan. "Don't wait up. Working late again." I looked toward the stairs where Lorraine had disappeared with the photo. Whatever secrets this family was hiding, I had a feeling I was about to become part of them, whether I wanted to or not. The attic was the only place in Lorraine's house where I could breathe freely. I'd started sneaking up there during my lunch breaks, working remotely to escape the suffocating atmosphere downstairs. That's where I found the box. It was tucked behind a stack of old magazines, unmarked except for a small date written in faded ink, 1992. Inside, beneath yellowed newspaper clippings and photographs, I found a hospital bracelet with the name Emma Thompson printed on it. My hands trembled as I picked up one of the newspaper articles. The headline made my stomach lurch. "Local teen's death raises questions about alternative medicine." "What are you doing up here?" I nearly dropped the box. Ethan stood at the top of the attic stairs, his face unreadable in the dim light. I held up the article. "Who was Emma?" He crossed the room in 3 quick strides and snatched the box from my hands. "You shouldn't be going through our family's private things." "Your sister." I pressed, watching his jaw tighten. "Ethan, talk to me. What happened to her?" "It's not important." He shoved the box onto a high shelf. "And Mother would be upset if she knew you were up here." "Mother would be upset?" I stood up, anger finally overtaking my caution. "That's what you're worried about? You're never home. You barely talk to me anymore, and all you care about is keeping your mother happy." "That's not fair." "No. What's not fair is finding out about your dead sister from a newspaper clipping." My voice cracked. "Why didn't you tell me?" Before he could answer, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then quickly looked away, but not before I caught a glimpse of the name on the screen. Claire. The Peterson Project? I asked quietly. His silence was answer enough. Who's Claire? My colleague. He wouldn't meet my eyes. She's helping with the project. Is that all she is? The attic suddenly felt airless. Ethan ran his hand through his hair. That nervous gesture I once found endearing now made me want to scream. She's just someone I can talk to, he finally said. About everything that's happening. The baby, the pressure. And you can't talk to me? I wrapped my arms around myself, feeling the slight swell of my stomach beneath my shirt. Your wife? The mother of your child? It's complicated. Because of Emma? I cut in. Because of whatever happened to her? His face hardened. You don't know anything about that. Then tell me. I stepped closer, forcing him to look at me. Help me understand why your mother looks at me like I'm going to break something precious. Why you can't seem to stand being in the same room as me anymore. The buzz of his phone cut through the tension again. This time, he answered it. Claire? Yeah, I'll be there in 20. He turned to me, his expression pleading. We'll talk about this later, okay? I promise. I watched him hurry down the attic stairs, leaving me alone with the dust and secrets. As his footsteps faded, I heard movement below Lorraine, probably hovering near the bottom of the stairs, pretending not to eavesdrop. With shaking hands, I reached up and pulled the box back down. If no one would tell me the truth, I'd find it myself. The articles painted a tragic picture. Emma Thompson, 16, died after complications from an herbal treatment. The details were vague, but one quote stood out from a younger Lorraine, defending her choice of alternative medicine. I only wanted what was best for her. Sometimes a mother's love means making difficult choices. Footsteps on the stairs made me quickly replace the box. Lorraine appeared, holding a cup of tea. I thought you might need this, she said, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. It's a special blend, very soothing for expectant mothers. I stared at the steaming cup, remembering the articles about herbal remedies. No, thank you. I'm not thirsty. Something flickered across her face. Hurt? Anger? Fear? You really should take better care of yourself, dear. For the baby's sake. As she set the cup down and left, her words from the article echoed in my head. Sometimes a mother's love means making difficult choices. I had a feeling I was about to face some difficult choices of my own. At 7 months pregnant, I'd mastered the art of avoiding Lorraine's special tease and navigating around her constant hovering. What I couldn't avoid was the growing distance between Ethan and me, stretching wider with each passing day. I was organizing the nursery, the only room in the house Lorraine hadn't tried to control, when I heard voices from below. Ethan was home early, for once. You can't keep doing this, his voice drifted up through the heating vent. She's not Emma. I'm trying to protect her, Lorraine snapped back. The way I should have protected. By what? Sneaking herbs into her food? I saw you this morning. My hand instinctively went to my stomach. The morning sickness that had mysteriously returned last week suddenly made more sense. Those remedies are perfectly safe, Lorraine insisted. If you'd just let me help. Like you helped Emma? Ethan's voice cracked. We're not having this conversation again. Footsteps thundered up the stairs, and I quickly pretended to fold baby clothes. Ethan appeared in the doorway, looking exhausted. Hey, he said, forcing a smile. Need help? I held up a tiny onesie. Where's Claire? Isn't this usually your late night at the office? His smile faltered. Callie. I saw you having lunch with her yesterday, I continued, carefully refolding the onesie. At that little cafe on 4th Street. You looked comfortable. He stepped into the room, closing the door behind him. It's not what you think. Really? Because I think my husband would rather spend time with his colleague than his pregnant wife. I turned to face him fully. I think he's been letting his mother poison me. She's not, that's not what's happening. He ran his hands through his hair. Mother just gets fixated sometimes. Ever since Emma. Ever since Emma what? I demanded. What really happened to your sister, Ethan? Before he could answer, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Meet me at Riverside Park tomorrow, 2 p.m. I can tell you about Emma. Gee. Who's that? Ethan asked, trying to peek at my screen. I locked my phone quickly. Work stuff. Two could play at the secrets game. Later that night, I lay awake listening to Ethan's steady breathing beside me. My laptop glowed softly as I scrolled through old social media posts, searching for any mention of Claire. I found her easily enough. Claire Martinez, junior architect, recently divorced. There were dozens of photos of her and Ethan at work events, standing just a little too close. But it was another photo that made my blood run cold. Claire at a conference 6 months ago, holding up a herbal tea blend. The caption read, "Amazing gift from my colleague's mom. #blessed by Lorraine." My hands shook as I closed the laptop. Lorraine wasn't just trying to control me, she was grooming my replacement. The baby kicked, strong and insistent. I slipped out of bed and went to the window, watching Lorraine's shadow move behind her bedroom curtains. She was always up late, always watching, always waiting. I pulled out my phone and looked at the mysterious text again. Gee, could it be George, Ethan's absent father? The man Lorraine refused to discuss? Making my decision, I started packing a small bag, just enough for a few days. I couldn't stay here, not with Lorraine's remedies in every cup of tea, not with Ethan's growing closeness to Claire. Not with the weight of Emma's ghost pressing down on all of us. As I zipped up the bag, I heard footsteps in the hallway, that familiar, measured tread. Lorraine's shadow paused outside our door. "Sleep well, dear," she called softly through the wood. "I'll make you a special breakfast tomorrow. You need to keep up your strength." I waited until her footsteps faded before whispering to my unborn child, "Don't worry. Tomorrow, we're going to learn the truth. And then we're going to decide what to do about it." The baby kicked again, as if in agreement. Whatever secrets this family was hiding, whatever game Lorraine was playing with Claire, I had to protect my child. Even if it meant burning every bridge behind me. Riverside Park was empty except for an elderly man feeding pigeons. As I approached, his familiar profile made my heart skip. He had Ethan's nose, the same slope to his shoulders. George Thompson looked older than his 65 years, but his eyes were sharp as they met mine. "You look just like her," he said quietly. "Emma, at your age." I lowered myself onto the bench beside him. "Why now? After all these years?" "Because history's repeating itself." He tossed another handful of breadcrumbs. "Lorraine's doing it again, isn't she? The teas, the herbs, the constant watching." My hand instinctively went to my stomach. "How did you know?" "Because that's how it started with Emma." His voice cracked. She was pregnant too. 17, scared, and Lorraine. Lorraine thought she knew best. The world seemed to tilt sideways. Emma was pregnant? Lorraine's natural remedies were supposed to end it quietly. Instead, he closed his eyes. The hospital called it complications from herbal poisoning. Lorraine called it God's will. I called it murder. My phone buzzed. Another text from Ethan. "Where are you?" "Mother's worried." "Does Ethan know?" I asked, ignoring the message. He was 12. Lorraine told him Emma died from a rare illness. He believed her, still does. George turned to face me fully. "But you're different. You see through her, don't you?" Before I could answer, a familiar voice cut through the air. "Father?" Ethan stood at the park entrance, Claire beside him. My stomach lurched at their matched stance, the casual intimacy of their body language. "What are you doing here?" Ethan demanded, striding toward us. "With my wife." "Telling her the truth," George said, standing. "Something you should have done years ago." "The truth?" Claire stepped forward, her hand brushing Ethan's arm. "Ethan, maybe we should." "We?" I stood up, fury suddenly burning through my fear. "There is no we here, Claire. This isn't your family." Actually, Lorraine's voice made us all turn. She stood behind us, elegant as ever in her pressed slacks and pearl necklace. "Claire understands our family better than you ever could, dear. She knows the importance of tradition, of doing things the right way." "The right way?" I laughed, harsh and hollow. "Like you did with Emma?" Lorraine's face went white. "Who told you?" "I did." George moved to stand between us. "No more secrets, Lorraine. No more herbs in her tea, no more pushing her aside for Claire. It ends now. You don't understand. Lorraine's voice shook. I'm trying to protect them. The baby. It has to be raised properly this time. With the right mother. The implications hit me like a physical blow. The tease, Claire's increasing presence, Ethan's distance. It wasn't just about control. It was about replacement. You're trying to get rid of me, I whispered. Like Emma. Mother. Ethan's voice cracked. What is she talking about? But I was already moving, pushing past them all. My vision blurred as I fumbled for my car keys. Behind me, I heard George calling my name, Ethan arguing with Lorraine, Claire's attempts to mediate. I made it to my car just as the first contraction hit. Callie. Ethan reached the car as I doubled over. You're in labor. Let me help. Stay away from me. I gasped, gripping the door handle. All of you just stay away. Through the windshield, I could see Lorraine approaching, her hand dipping into her purse, probably reaching for one of her special tea bags. The second contraction came harder than the first. As I struggled to breathe through it, one thought crystallized with perfect clarity. I had to get out of here. Not just for me anymore, but for my baby. We weren't going to become another tragic story in the Thompson family history. I started the car, my hands steady despite the pain. In the rearview mirror, I watched them grow smaller, Ethan's desperate face, Claire's concerned pose, George's knowing nod, and Lorraine's rigid stance. The next contraction hit as I turned onto the main road. I had no idea where I was going, but I knew one thing for certain, wherever I ended up. It would be far from Lorraine's remedies and this family's poisonous secrets. Lily came into the world at 3:47 a.m. in a hospital 30 miles from home. I'd barely made it, driving through contractions until a concerned truck driver called 911 after seeing me pulled over on the highway. Doubled over my steering wheel. Now, watching my daughter sleep in the hospital bassinet, I felt both stronger and more vulnerable than I'd ever been. The nurses had asked about family. I told them I didn't have any. Mrs. Thompson? A nurse appeared in the doorway. Your husband is here. Before I could protest, Ethan pushed past her. He looked terrible, unshaven, clothes wrinkled, eyes red. Callie, he breathed, moving toward the bassinet. Is she? Don't. My voice was raw. Just don't. He stopped, hands falling to his sides. I've been looking everywhere for you. Mother's beside herself. Is Claire comforting her? The words tasted bitter. This isn't about Claire. He ran his hands through his hair. You're being paranoid. Mother only wants to help. Like she helped Emma? His face hardened. That's different. Emma was sick. Emma was pregnant. I struggled to keep my voice down. Your mother poisoned her with her natural remedies and covered it up. And now she's trying to do the same to me. That's ridiculous. You're not thinking clearly. A small cry from the bassinet interrupted us. Lily was awake, her tiny face scrunching up. I moved to pick her up, but Ethan got there first. Hello, beautiful, he whispered, cradling her. I'm your daddy. The sight made my heart ache. Then I saw Lorraine in the doorway, holding what looked like a thermos. I brought you some tea, dear, she said, stepping inside. My special postpartum blend. It will help with recovery. My arms tightened around Lily. Get out. Now, Callie, she moved closer. You're obviously exhausted. Let me help. Help. I laughed, harsh and hollow. Like you helped Emma? What was in her tea, Lorraine? What exactly helped her recover? Mother. Ethan looked between us, confusion clouding his features. What is she talking about? Lorraine's face went blank, that perfect mask she always wore. Your sister was very ill. Stop lying. I stood up, ignoring the pain. George told me everything. About Emma's pregnancy, about your remedies, about how you covered it up. I was protecting our family. Lorraine's mask cracked. Emma was going to ruin everything with her foolishness. I had to fix it. The thermos slipped from her hands, dark liquid spreading across the floor. Ethan stared at it, then at his mother, horror dawning on his face. What did you do? He whispered. The same thing she's been doing to me, I said quietly. Check Claire's social media. Look at the tea gifts, the special blends. She's been poisoning me for months, hasn't she? getting me out of the way so Claire could step in. Lorraine's shoulders straightened. Claire understands tradition. Family values. She wouldn't question. My methods, a new voice finished. We all turned to see George in the doorway, holding a stack of papers. Medical records, police reports, toxicology tests, everything you buried about Emma's death, Lorraine. I kept copies. The monitors started beeping as my heart rate spiked. Nurses rushed in, pushing everyone back. You need to leave, one ordered. All of you. Now. Through the chaos, I watched Ethan's face as he read the papers George thrust into his hands. Watched him look at his mother with new eyes. Watched Lorraine reach for him, only to have him step away. But it was the thermos on the floor that held my attention, the dark liquid seeping into the hospital tiles like blood. How many cups had I drunk before I realized? How close had I come to becoming another Thompson family tragedy? As they wheeled Lily out for routine tests, I caught a glimpse of Claire hovering in the hallway, her face pale, waiting to step into my life, just as Lorraine had planned. The nurse gave me something to help me sleep, but I fought it. I couldn't rest. Not with Lorraine still out there. Not with my daughter vulnerable. Not until I found a way to end this cycle of poison and secrets once and for all. The police arrived 3 days after Lily's birth. I watched from my hospital window as they led Lorraine away in handcuffs, George's evidence finally bringing decades of secrets into the light. But even as they put her in the patrol car, her eyes never left the hospital building. Never left Lily. That night, as I was preparing to be discharged, the power went out. Standard generator switch, the nurse assured me, checking Lily's vitals one last time. Nothing to worry about. But when she left, I noticed my phone was dead, and I'd just charged it. The hallway outside was eerily quiet, no beeping monitors, no murmuring voices. Then I saw the shadow in my doorway. They don't understand, Lorraine said softly, stepping into the dim emergency lighting. A mother's love means making difficult choices. I pulled Lily closer to my chest. How did you? Claire helped. She smiled that perfect, poisonous smile. She's always been such a good girl. Understands tradition. My eyes darted to the call button, but Lorraine shook her head. The phones are down too. Just for a little while. She moved closer, something clutched in her hand. Long enough to fix this. To make things right. Like you fixed things with Emma? Her smile faltered. Emma was weak. Confused. But I can do better this time. We can start fresh, you, Ethan, Claire. Lily will have a proper mother. I am her proper mother. I backed away, looking for an escape route. You're just like Emma. Too modern. Too independent. She uncurled her fingers, revealing a syringe. This will be peaceful. Quick. Better than the tea. Mother, stop. Ethan stood in the doorway, George right behind him. In the emergency lights, their faces looked ghostly. You don't understand, Lorraine pleaded, turning to her son. I'm protecting our family. Our legacy. By killing my wife? Ethan's voice cracked. Like you killed Emma? Emma was a mistake. Lorraine's composure cracked. I only meant to help her sleep. To keep her quiet until we could handle things properly. But she was so small, so sensitive to the herbs. She was your daughter, George said quietly. Our little girl. She was going to ruin everything. Lorraine spun back to me, raising the syringe. Just like you're ruining everything now. Several things happened at once. Ethan lunged forward. George shouted. Lily started crying. And Claire appeared in the doorway, holding up her phone. It's all on video, Mrs. Thompson. Every word. Lorraine froze. Claire? But you. You helped me. I helped you get out on bail because I needed evidence. Claire's voice was steady. My sister died from your specialty 3 years ago. Different name, different city, but the same herbs. I've been tracking you ever since. The syringe clattered to the floor. Lorraine's face crumpled, decades of careful control dissolving into raw grief. I only wanted. She whispered, I only ever wanted. To protect us, Ethan finished. But you destroyed us instead. Security guards rushed in, followed by police officers. As they led Lorraine away again, this time for good, she looked back one last time. "I'm sorry," she said, but I couldn't tell if she was speaking to Ethan, to Emma's memory, or to herself. Later, after the chaos settled, I sat in my hospital room watching Lily sleep. Ethan stood by the window, his father beside him, both men silent with the weight of revealed truths. Claire lingered in the doorway. "I should have told you my real reasons for getting close to the family. Would I have believed you?" I asked. She smiled sadly. "Probably not. We all believe what we want to about family until we can't anymore." As she left, Ethan moved to sit beside me. "I don't expect you to forgive me," he said quietly, "but I'd like to try to earn back your trust. For Lily's sake. For our sake." I looked down at our daughter, peaceful in her sleep, unaware of the storms that had raged around her birth. "No more secrets," I said. "No more poison, any kind." He nodded, and for the first time since this all began, I felt like I could breathe freely. The Thompson family legacy of secrets and control was over. Whatever came next would be our story to write. 6 months after Lorraine's arrest, I stood in Emma's old bedroom, now transformed into Lily's nursery. The walls were a soft yellow instead of the faded pink I'd first encountered. No more pressed flowers or old photographs, just clean lines and new beginnings. "The last box is packed," Ethan said from the doorway. We'd decided to sell his childhood home, too many shadows lingering in its corners. I lifted Lily from her crib, her weight solid and real against my chest. "Did you check the attic? Dad's up there now." He stepped closer, tentatively touching Lily's cheek. These days, every interaction between us felt like this careful, measured healing. George appeared in the doorway, holding a small wooden box. "Found something you should see." Inside were letters, dozens of them, all addressed to Emma, all written in Lorraine's precise handwriting. The dates spanned years after Emma's death. "She wrote to her every week," George said quietly. "From prison, from the psychiatric facility, even now. Trying to explain, to apologize, to understand herself." I picked up the most recent one, dated just last week. The words blurred before my eyes. "I thought I was protecting you, but I was only protecting my own fears. Your child would have been Lily's age now. She's starting to understand," Ethan said, his voice rough. "The therapist says it's progress." I placed the letter back carefully. Progress or not, some bridges couldn't be rebuilt. Some poisons lingered too long in the system. Claire had visited yesterday, bringing documents about her sister's case. Other families had come forward, more victims of Lorraine's traditional remedies across decades. The legacy of harm stretched further than any of us had imagined. "I have something for you," George said, pulling out an envelope. Inside was a trust fund document for Lily. "I couldn't protect Emma, but I can help protect her niece's future." "George, we can't." "Please." His eyes were wet. "Let me do this one thing right." Later, as we loaded the last boxes into the moving truck, I noticed a small package on the front step. Inside was a tea set, not Lorraine's antique china, but a modern one, simple and clean. The note read, "For new traditions. Claire." I smiled, remembering our last conversation. She decided to start a support group for families affected by medical manipulation and abuse. Turning poison into medicine, she'd called it. "Ready?" Ethan asked, Lily sleeping against his shoulder. I looked up at the house one last time. Somewhere in the county jail, Lorraine was probably writing another letter to Emma, trying to make sense of where protection ended and control began. Somewhere in the city, Claire was helping other families heal from similar wounds. And here we were, standing on the threshold between past and future. "Almost," I said, walking to the garden. Among Lorraine's perfectly manicured roses, I'd planted a small herb garden, sage, mint, lavender. Healing plants growing wild and free. I picked a sprig of lavender, its scent sharp and clean in the morning air. For remembering, I explained to Ethan's questioning look. Not all family traditions have to be toxic. He nodded, understanding flickering in his eyes. We'd agreed to try couples counseling, to rebuild our relationship with the same care we were using to build our new home. Some days were harder than others, but we were learning to grow together instead of apart. As we drove away, I caught a final glimpse of the house in the rearview mirror. The morning sun hit the windows just right, making them flash like signals in the distance. Warning or blessing, I couldn't tell. Lily stirred, her tiny hand grabbing my finger. In her face, I sometimes saw echoes of Emma's photos, the same determined chin, the same bright eyes. But she was her own person, free from the weight of Thompson family expectations. No more poison, I whispered my promise to her. Just growth. The lavender sprig on the dashboard filled the car with its clean, sharp scent, covering the last traces of Lorraine's perfume, of old secrets, of carefully steeped control. We were writing our own story now, one honest cup at a time.
I never thought I'd be the type of person to snoop through my husband's office. 32 years of marriage had given me complete trust in Nate. Or maybe I was just naive. My name is Marley, and until last Tuesday, I was living what I thought was a perfect life. Nate and I had built our plastic surgery clinic from nothing into one of Boston's most prestigious medical facilities. We had everything: respect, wealth, and what I believed was an unshakable partnership. The drawer wasn't even hidden well. I was looking for some insurance paperwork when I noticed the slight gap behind his filing cabinet. A gentle pull revealed a shallow drawer, perfectly concealed unless you were standing at just the right angle. Inside, a stack of letters tied with a pink ribbon sat next to a small velvet box. My hands trembled as I pulled out the first letter. The paper was expensive, the kind that costs more than most people spend on dinner. The handwriting was flowing, feminine, and somehow mocking. "My dearest Nate," it began. "Last night was magical. I can't stop thinking about your hands." I couldn't read anymore. The date at the top was from 3 months ago. 3 months of living my life, sleeping next to my husband, while he was... "Dr. Brooks?" Sarah, our receptionist, knocked on the door. "The Henderson meeting starts in 5 minutes. "I'll be right there," I called back, my voice surprisingly steady despite the earthquake happening in my chest. I carefully replaced everything exactly as I'd found it. Muscle memory from years of precision in running our business taking over while my mind spun out of control. The Henderson meeting. Right. We were supposed to be discussing acquiring their smaller clinic, expanding our practice. Nate would be there, probably sitting next to Elle Monroe, his new assistant. Elle, with her perfect 20-something face, and that flowing handwriting I now recognized from countless memos. I walked into the conference room like nothing was wrong, like I hadn't just discovered that my entire life was built on quicksand. Nate sat at the head of the table, exactly where I expected him to be. Elle was indeed beside him, her tablet ready to take notes. "Marley, sweetheart." Nate smiled at me, the same smile that had won me over in medical school. We were just getting started. I took my seat across from Elle, watching as she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. Her nails were painted pale pink, matching the ribbon that had bound her letters. The velvet box in the drawer suddenly made horrible sense. I'd seen her admiring a pair of diamond earrings in the window of Tiffany's last month when we'd all gone to lunch together. "The Henderson acquisition," I began, opening my laptop, "represents a significant opportunity for expansion." My voice was clinical, professional. Inside, I was screaming. "Their patient base is exactly what we're looking for," Nate added, leaning forward. "Young, affluent, image-conscious." His eyes flickered to Elle for just a moment too long. The meeting continued, but I was barely present. Instead, I was counting backwards, remembering small moments that suddenly made sense. The late nights at the office. The new cologne. The way he'd started wearing the expensive suits I'd always hated. "I think we should move forward," I heard myself say as the meeting wrapped up. "But I'd like to review the financials one more time." "Always the careful one," Nate laughed, but there was something tight in his expression. "Elle, could you pull those numbers together?" "Of course, Dr. Brooks," she smiled, all perfect teeth and practiced professionalism. I watched them leave together, their shoulders not quite touching. The Henderson acquisition would take months to complete. Months of meetings, planning, and pretending I didn't know what I knew. But that was fine, because now I had time to plan too. I pulled out my phone and called my sister Clara. "Hey," I said when she answered. "Remember when you said I worked too hard? I think it's time I started paying more attention to what's happening in my own house." Clara's house always smelled like cinnamon and disappointment. As I sat at her kitchen counter, watching her methodically wipe already clean surfaces, I could tell she was processing what I'd just told her about Nate and Elle. "Are you absolutely sure?" she finally asked, folding her dishcloth into perfect quarters. I mean, Nate's always been friendly with his staff. Friendly doesn't usually involve love letters and jewelry from Tiffany's. I replied, my fingers tightening around my untouched coffee mug. Clara sighed, leaning against her pristine countertop. Have you confronted him? Not yet. I need to understand exactly what I'm dealing with first. I pulled out my phone, showing her the photos I'd taken of the clinic's recent financial statements. Look at these transfers. Every month for the past 6 months, significant amounts moving to an account I've never seen before. Oh, Marley. Clara's face softened with pity, and something else. Was that relief? I should tell you. I saw them together last month, at that new wine bar downtown. I thought it was just a work thing, but what? My voice came out sharper than intended. The way he looked at her. I've seen that look before. Clara's hands twisted the dishcloth. Richard used to look at his secretary that way before. I'd almost forgotten about Clara's own brush with infidelity 5 years ago. She'd fought to save her marriage, convinced Richard to go to counseling. Now they lived in this perfect house with its perfect kitchen, pretending everything was perfect. Why didn't you tell me? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Because Nate's been good to this family. He paid for Mom's care facility. He got Jamie that gallery showing. Clara trailed off, looking guilty. I thought maybe I was seeing things that weren't there. The mention of Jamie made my chest tight. Our godson worshipped Nate, saw him as the father figure he'd never had. This would destroy him. Speaking of Jamie, Clara continued, clearly eager to change the subject. He's having another showing next week. Nate and Elle are handling the clinic's sponsorship. What? The coffee mug slipped from my hands, shattering on the immaculate floor. Dark liquid spread across the white tiles like a stain. I'm sorry, I thought you knew. Elle's been coordinating everything with the gallery. She seems very invested in Jamie's career. Of course she was. Jamie was young, talented, and connected to our family. Another stepping stone for her ambitions. As Clara rushed to clean up the mess, her phone buzzed on the counter. I caught a glimpse of the screen, a message from Nate. Need to talk about Marley. You're still in contact with him? I stood up, suddenly feeling like I couldn't breathe in this perfect kitchen with its perfect lies. He's worried about you, Clara defended, quickly turning her phone face down. He says you've been distant, working late, checking the accounts obsessively. So I'm the problem? I laughed, but it came out more like a sob. My husband is having an affair with a woman half his age, stealing from our clinic, and I'm the one everyone's worried about? That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean, Clara? Because it sounds like you're choosing his side. I'm not choosing sides. Clara's composure finally cracked. But someone has to think about the bigger picture. The clinic employs dozens of people. Jamie's career is just taking off. If this becomes public, it will be because of Nate's choices, not mine. I grabbed my purse, heading for the door. And by the way, Richard is still seeing his secretary. I saw them last week at the Four Seasons. But I'm sure your perfect marriage can survive another round of counseling. I left Clara standing in her perfect kitchen, surrounded by coffee stains and shattered illusions. As I drove home, my phone lit up with messages. One from Clara begging me to come back, one from Jamie about the upcoming show, and one from an unknown number. It was a photo of Nate and Elle, clearly taken recently, entering a jewelry store together. The caption read, "Thought you should know. Emily Chun, Radiant Transformations." Well, wasn't that interesting? Emily Chen's office at Radiant Transformations was everything our clinic wasn't: modern, minimalist, and intimidating. I sat across from her, studying the woman who'd sent me that photo of Nate and Elle. "I've been watching your clinic's financial reports," Emily said, sliding a folder across her glass desk. "They make for interesting reading." I opened the folder, my stomach dropping at what I saw. Bank statements, transfer records, property listings, all connecting Nate to a beachfront condo in Miami. The down payment had come from our clinic's accounts. "How did you get these?" Emily's smile was razor-sharp. "Let's just say Elle isn't as loyal to Nate as he thinks. She's been keeping her options open." Of course she had. I thought about the way Elle had been handling Jamie's gallery showing, positioning herself at the center of our social circle. She wasn't just after Nate, she was after everything. Why show me this? Because I respect you, Marley. And because I'm about to make you an offer. Emily leaned forward. "Merge your clinic with mine. We'll force Nate out, restructure under the Radiant brand. You'll have complete control of operations." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A text from Jamie. "Emergency at the gallery. Need you both here now. I have to go. I stood up, clutching the folder. But we're not done talking about this. The gallery was chaos when I arrived. Water was pouring from the ceiling, threatening Jamie's newest collection. Nate was already there, directing people like he was in surgery. Elle stood nearby, filming everything on her phone. The sprinklers just went off, Jamie explained, his face pale. Insurance won't cover water damage because the gallery missed an inspection. How convenient, I muttered, watching Elle tap away at her phone. She'd been handling the gallery's paperwork, including insurance renewals. Nate appeared at my side, too close. We need to talk about the Henderson acquisition. Now! I stepped back, my hand tightening on Emily's folder. The numbers don't add up, he said quietly. You've been looking into accounts you shouldn't be accessing. Like the ones funding your Miami love nest? His face went blank, that perfect surgeon's mask he wore when things went wrong in the operating room. Who told you about Miami? Does it matter? What matters is you're stealing from our clinic to build a new life with her. I nodded toward Elle, who was now comforting Jamie with practiced concern. It's not what you think. Really. Because I think you're having a midlife crisis that's going to destroy everything we've built. I think you're so scared of becoming irrelevant that you're willing to throw away 32 years of marriage for someone who's using you to climb the social ladder. Keep your voice down, he hissed, grabbing my arm. I yanked away, but not before Jamie noticed the tension. He started walking toward us, concern etched on his face. Everything okay over here? Fine, Nate said smoothly. Just discussing some clinic business. Actually, I pulled out my phone, pulling up the transfer records. Why don't you take a look at this business, Jamie? Since you're about to lose your gallery showing thanks to your godfather's girlfriend's oversight with the insurance. Elle's head snapped up at that, her carefully constructed mask slipping for just a moment. Jamie looked between us, confusion turning to understanding. What's she talking about, Uncle Nate? But Nate was staring at the phone in my hand, at the evidence of his betrayal. You'll destroy everything, he said softly. The clinic, our reputation, Jamie's career. No, I corrected him. You've already done that. I'm just deciding whether to let you keep pretending otherwise. I walked out of the gallery, leaving Jamie's questions and Elle's calculated concern behind. My phone buzzed again, Emily Chun. My offer stands. But now I'm adding a condition. Full audit of all clinic finances made public. Your move. I thought about Clara's perfect kitchen, about Jamie's ruined artwork, about the way Nate's hands had shaken when he saw those bank statements. Then I thought about the Miami condo, waiting for its new occupants. I texted back one word. Deal. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying someone. It's about forcing them to face exactly who they've become. Jamie's studio apartment was his sanctuary, filled with half-finished canvases and the smell of turpentine. I sat on his paint-splattered couch, watching him process everything I'd just told him about Nate, Elle, and the clinic. I should have seen it, he said finally, putting down his brush. The canvas in front of him showed a woman's face, fractured into pieces. I recognized my own features, distorted by his artistic vision. Elle kept asking questions about the family, about the clinic's history. I thought she was just being friendly. We all did. I picked up one of his sketches. Elle's face, captured in perfect detail. She's good at making people see what they want to see. Uncle Nate helped me get my first showing. Jamie's voice cracked slightly. Everything I have was earned by your talent. I cut him off. Nate may have opened some doors, but you walked through them on your own merit. Jamie's phone buzzed, a text from Elle. He showed me the screen. Need to talk about the insurance situation. Have a solution. Dinner tonight. She's trying to damage control, I said. The question is why? What does she get from keeping you on her side? Jamie started pacing, leaving paint-stained footprints on his wooden floor. There's something else. Elle's been asking about the Henderson acquisition, specifically about the property deeds. My blood ran cold. What about them? She wanted to know if they were in the clinic's name or, he hesitated, or in yours personally. Since you inherited the building from your grandmother. The pieces clicked into place. The Henderson property was the only major clinic asset solely in my name. If Nate and Elle managed to push me out before the merger. My phone rang, Emily Chun. The audit revealed something interesting, she said without preamble. Your husband's been meeting with Henderson's board behind your back. They're voting tomorrow on a direct sale to him, bypassing you completely. I ended the call, my hands shaking. Jamie, I need you to do something for me. Keep that dinner with Elle. Find out everything you can about their plans for Henderson. You want me to spy on them? His face showed conflict, the idealistic artist wrestling with harsh reality. I want you to protect your future. Because if they get control of Henderson, your gallery space goes with it. Jamie's expression hardened. I'll do it. But promise me something? Don't let this turn you into someone you're not. I looked at his painting of my fractured face. Maybe I'm already someone different. Maybe that's not a bad thing. Later that night, Jamie called. His voice was tight with anger. Let something sleep. They're planning to announce the Henderson deal at my gallery opening next week. She said it would be poetic. The old guard making way for the new. In front of all our friends and colleagues, I said quietly. Maximum humiliation. There's more. She showed me the property transfer papers. They're already drawn up, just waiting for signatures. I cannot. He's using my show to legitimize their relationship. To make it seem like the family approves. I thought about Emily's offer, about Clara's warnings, about 32 years of building something just to watch it be stolen by calculated innocence and practiced charm. Jamie, I said carefully, how would you feel about moving your show to Radiant Transformations Gallery space? Dr. Chun has been looking for ways to support local artists. The silence stretched for a moment. You're going to war, aren't you? No, I corrected him. I'm going to teach them about consequences. There's a difference. After hanging up, I opened my email and found what I'd been dreading, an invitation to a pre-show dinner at Nate and Elle's new condo. The Miami property I wasn't supposed to know about. I typed 2 responses, one accepting the dinner invitation, the other to Emily Chun, start the audit, and make sure the results reach the Henderson board before tomorrow's vote. Sometimes the hardest part isn't deciding to fight back. It's realizing that the person you're fighting isn't who you thought they were, and neither are you. The Miami condo was exactly what I expected. All glass and modern angles, designed to make its occupants feel important. I sat at the dining table while Elle played hostess, serving wine with practiced grace. Nate watched her move around the kitchen like a proud collector admiring his latest acquisition. The Henderson board was quite impressed with our proposal, Elle said, setting down a plate of something artfully arranged. Especially the part about modernizing their approach. Modernizing. I took a sip of wine, noting how Nate's hand tightened around his glass. Is that what we're calling it? The clinic needs to evolve, Nate said. You've always been resistant to change. The door buzzed, Jamie arriving late as planned. Elle rushed to let him in, leaving Nate and me alone for a moment. Did you really think I wouldn't find out about the board vote? I asked quietly. Before he could answer, my phone lit up with an email from Emily Chun. The subject line made my heart race. Audit complete, urgent. Jamie entered with Elle, his face tight with something more than artistic temperament. He'd seen the results too. Uncle Nate, Jamie's voice was carefully controlled. Elle mentioned you're planning to announce the Henderson deal at my show? We thought it would be perfect. Elle touched Jamie's arm. A celebration of new beginnings. My phone buzzed again, Clara this time. Emergency at Henderson. Board meeting cancelled. Call me. Speaking of celebrations, I set down my wine glass. How long have you been falsifying patient records, Nate? The room went silent. Elle's perfect hostess smile flickered. The audit found some interesting patterns, I continued. Procedures that never happened, insurance claims for ghost patients. All tied to that account in Miami. You had no right, Nate started. I had every right. I'm still your wife, still co-owner of the clinic. Though I suppose that's why you needed the Henderson deal so badly. Can't hide fraud if your wife has access to the books. Elle moved toward Nate, but Jamie caught her arm. Don't, he said. Show her. Elle's facade cracked. She pulled out her phone, handed it to me. On the screen was an email chain between her and someone at the medical board. She'd been gathering evidence for months. Insurance fraud is a federal crime, she said softly. The board would have to revoke his license. Unless I sign over my share of Henderson, I finished. And the clinic. It's not personal. Elle's voice had lost its practiced charm. It's just business. I looked at Nate, really looked at him. The man I'd loved for 32 years was gone, replaced by someone desperate and small. You knew about this? I asked him. Elle understands what needs to be done, he said. The clinic is my legacy. I can't let it become obsolete. My phone buzzed one final time, Emily Chun again. Henderson board saw the audit. They're calling an emergency meeting. Tomorrow morning. Your move. I stood up, my decision made. Jamie, would you mind giving me a ride? I think I've lost my appetite. Marley. Nate called as I reached the door. Think about what you're doing. One phone call from Elle, and everything we built. Everything we built. I turned back. No, Nate. Ibuil this. While you were chasing youth and validation, I kept our clinic running. And now you and your protégé think you can blackmail me with evidence she gathered while sleeping with my husband. Elle flinched. Jamie moved to my side, his artist's hands steady on my shoulder. The Henderson board meets tomorrow, I said. They'll have the full audit, including Elle's evidence. But they'll also have proof of who really committed the fraud. Check your email, Elle. Emily Chin sends her regards. I left them in their perfect condo with its perfect view, knowing tomorrow would change everything. In the car, Jamie finally spoke. What happens now? Now! I watched Miami's lights blur past. Now we see who's really been playing who. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying someone's future. It's about forcing them to face their past. The Henderson board meeting never happened. Instead, I found myself in the emergency room at 3 a.m, watching doctors wheel Nate into surgery. Apparently, stress and cocaine don't mix well with a man his age. He had a minor heart attack, the doctor explained. We found significant amounts of stimulants in his system. Elle sat across the waiting room, her perfect makeup smeared with tears that looked almost genuine. Clara paced between us like a referee at a boxing match. Did you know? Clara asked me quietly. About the drugs? I shook my head. 32 years of marriage, and I'd missed the signs. Or maybe I'd chosen not to see them. My phone buzzed. Emily Chun. Henderson board saw the toxicology report. They're pulling out completely. I'm sorry, Marley. Another buzz, Jamie. Elle's been talking to reporters. Check the local news sites. The headlines were already appearing. Prominent surgeon's drug crisis. Brooks' clinic under investigation. Each one carefully crafted to suggest widespread problems, not just one man's desperate choices. He'll lose his license, Elle said suddenly. Even without the fraud, this is enough. Isn't that what you wanted? I asked. To destroy him so completely that taking over would be easy? I wanted. Ellis voice craqued. I never thought he'd actually. The doctor returned before she could finish. He's asking for you, Mrs. Brooks. And he's not entirely coherent. I found Nate looking small in his hospital bed, tubes snaking from his arms. His surgeon's hands, once so steady, trembled as he reached for me. I couldn't let it end, he whispered. The clinic, our legacy. I couldn't become irrelevant. So you chose cocaine and a 24-year-old instead? Elle understood. She really saw me. Not just as. He gestured weakly at himself, this aging man trying to hold on to something. No, I said quietly. She saw an opportunity. Just like she saw one in Jamie's gallery, in the Henderson deal, in every careful step she took to position herself. The audit, he closed his eyes. How bad? Bad enough that our insurance won't cover this hospital stay. The fraud investigation freezes everything. His monitors beeped faster. There's a safe in the Miami condo. Behind the Rothko print. Everything you need to prove it was all me. None of it touched the clinic's legitimate accounts. You're confessing? I'm trying to save what's left. For you. For Jamie. He laughed bitterly. Elle's probably already planning her next move. As if on cue, my phone buzzed again. A video link from Clara. Elle giving an interview outside the hospital. Tears perfectly falling as she described her deep concern for her mentor and her hopes of maintaining the clinic's sterling reputation during this transition. She's good, I admitted. Better than we gave her credit for. Marley, Nate's voice was fading. The safe. The combination. But his eyes were closing, the medication pulling him under. I watched him slip into sleep, this man I'd loved and built a life with, now reduced to hospital monitors and whispered confessions. Outside, Clara waited with coffee and hard truth. The medical board meets tomorrow. Emily Chin says without access to that safe, there's no way to prove the clinic wasn't involved in his fraud. Or that Elle wasn't behind it all, I added. So what now? I looked through the hospital window at Elle, still performing for the cameras. At Jamie arriving with his worried artist's soul. At my phone lighting up with Emily Chen's latest update about the Henderson deal falling apart. Now, I said, we break into a Miami condo. Clara's eyes widened. That's insane. It's illegal. So is fraud. So is conspiracy. So is watching everything we built burn because we played by the rules while they didn't. Sometimes hitting bottom isn't about losing everything. It's about realizing what you're willing to do to get it back. Call Jamie, I told Clara. Tell him to bring his lockpicks. And whatever you do, don't let Elle know we're gone. Breaking into the Miami condo was surprisingly easy. What we didn't expect was to find Elle already there, standing in front of the Rothko print, safe door wide open. I wondered how long it would take you to come, she said, not turning around. The combination was his surgery license number. Predictable, really. Jamie's lockpicks were still in his hand. Clara stood frozen in the doorway. I stepped forward, taking in the scattered papers and empty safe. Where are the documents? I asked. You mean these? Elle held up a USB drive. Everything's here. The fraud, the fake patients, the drug purchases. But also this. She tossed me a small notebook. My insurance policy. The notebook was filled with Nate's handwriting. Detailed accounts of every illegal procedure, every under-the-table deal. Spanning years before Elle ever arrived. He's been doing this for a decade, Elle said. I just made it organized. Efficient. You documented everything. Understanding dawned. You were never after Nate. You were after the clinic. The clinic. Elle laughed, but it wasn't her usual practiced sound. I wanted what you had. The respect, the power to build something lasting. Nate was just convenient. Elle, Jamie stepped forward. This isn't you. The person I knew. The person you knew was a character I played. Elle est composure craquée. Poor little artist's assistant, so eager to learn, so grateful for every opportunity. Do you know what it's like to be invisible? To have talent but no connections. Actually, I held up the notebook. I do. First female clinic manager in Boston. Every bank turned me down for loans. Nate's name opened doors, but I built everything else. Then you understand. Elle's voice softened. Help me take over the clinic. With your experience, my ambition. No, I cut her off. Because you're still playing characters. Still trying to be someone else instead of building something real. Elle's hand tightened around the USB drive. One call to the medical board. Won't matter, Clara spoke up. Because while you were here, getting your insurance policy, I was at the hospital getting Nate's confession on video. Complete with details about how you helped organize the fraud. Elle's perfect mask slipped completely. You're lying. Check your phone, I suggested. The video's probably trending by now. Emily Chun has excellent media contacts. Jamie moved to the windows as police lights began flashing outside. They're here. You called the police? Elle looked betrayed. After everything I could give you? No, I said quietly. You called them yourself. Check your sent emails. Elle grabbed her phone, face paling as she saw the confession and evidence she'd apparently sent to the medical board an hour ago. How? You're not the only one who knows how to play a role, Jamie said. Those drinks we had last week. When I was considering your offer to manage my career. You should really lock your phone when you go to the bathroom. The police were at the door now. Elle looked around wildly, like a trapped animal. Here's what's going to happen, I said. You're going to hand over that USB drive. The police will find evidence of Nate's fraud, but also proof that you tried to stop it. You'll be the whistleblower who helped expose everything. Why would you protect me? Because revenge isn't about destruction. It's about making things right. I held out my hand. Your choice, Elle. Keep playing characters or start building something real. For a moment, I saw her clearly. Not the manipulative seductress or the ambitious protégé, but a young woman desperate to matter. Just like I'd been once. The police knocked. Elle handed me the drive. What happens now? She whispered. Now you do what I did 30 years ago. Start over. Build something that's actually yours. I smiled. Maybe start with some art classes. Jamie's a pretty good teacher. As the police entered, I watched Elle straighten her shoulders, ready to play her new role. This time maybe as herself. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't destroying your enemies. It's showing them a better way to live. 6 months later, I stood in the newly renovated Henderson Clinic, now part of Radiant Transformations. The morning light filtered through the windows, catching on the piece Jamie had created for the reception area. A mosaic of broken mirrors, each fragment reflecting something different. It's about perspective, Jamie explained to Emily Chun as we toured the space. How the same thing can look completely different depending on where you stand. Emily nodded appreciatively. Like how a betrayal can become an opportunity. I touched one of the mirror fragments, seeing my reflection split and reassembled. The woman looking back seemed stronger, somehow more certain. The first patients arrive next week, Emily continued. The waiting list is already full. Turns out, people appreciate honest marketing more than promises of eternal youth. My phone buzzed, a message from Clara. Richard moved out yesterday. Finally took your advice about not settling for perfect lies. Another buzz, Elle. First art show opening tonight. Jamie's been an amazing teacher. Would mean a lot if you came. The last 6 months had transformed all of us. Elle had taken her plea deal, trading testimony about the fraud for a fresh start. She'd discovered her talent for abstract art, turning manipulation into creation. Clara had found her voice, speaking truth instead of maintaining peace. And Nate, Mrs. Brooks. Sarah, our original receptionist who'd chosen to follow me to the new clinic, appeared at my elbow. "There's a delivery for you." The envelope was heavy, expensive, like the paper Elle used to write her love letters on. Inside was a letter from Nate's rehabilitation facility in Arizona. "You don't have to read it," Jamie said quietly. But I did. I owed myself that much. "Marley," it began. "The desert has a way of stripping everything down to essentials. No distractions, no masks, no comfortable lies. I've been thinking about legacy. Not the kind I thought I needed. The awards, the reputation, the desperate grab at youth. But the real kind. The lives we touch, the truth we choose to tell, the strength we find in starting over. You were always the stronger one. I see that now. While I was chasing mirrors, you were building something real. I'm sorry it took losing everything to understand that. The clinic will thrive under your vision. It always did, even when I was too blind to see it." Elle told me about her art show. About how you helped her find her real talent instead of destroying her. That's your true legacy, seeing the best in people, even when they fail to see it in themselves. I won't ask for forgiveness. Some bridges stay burned. But I wanted you to know, you taught me more by walking away than I learned in 32 years of standing still. I folded the letter carefully, tucking it into my blazer pocket. Emily and Jamie watched, waiting for a reaction. "The Henderson board meeting starts in 10 minutes, Emily reminded me gently. "Actually," I said, "I think I'll skip it. There's an art show I need to attend tonight." Jamie's face broke into a smile. Elle will be nervous. She could use some support. We all could back then. I looked around the clinic, my clinic now, built on honesty instead of illusion. Sometimes support means showing people who they can become, not punishing them for who they were. As we walked out, I caught one final reflection in Jamie's mosaic. All of us, fractured but whole, broken but rebuilt. Different, but somehow better. Ready for your next chapter? Emily asked. I thought about Nate's letter, about Elle's show, about Clara's newfound courage. About how revenge had twisted itself into redemption when I wasn't looking. Actually, I smiled. I think this is just the beginning. Sometimes the best endings aren't really endings at all. They're just better beginnings, viewed through fragments of who we used to be, reflecting who we might become.